All right, what's up, everybody? BallietBran, we're live now. We were doing some testing in the background, so wanted to say what's up. How's everybody doing? We'll address the chat real quick. Toby might be coming on a little bit later, but for now, it's going to be myself and Crypto7 after the intro, but just want to see how everyone's doing. We got Identity Block in the house, Gabriel, first time seeing them, so nice to see you, Gabriel. We got Wrenchy T. Lots of cool stuff going on. I know Richard just did a stream with a couple professional poker players the other day, just yesterday, I believe. That was really awesome. Myself and Crypto7 want to talk a little bit about the things in there, right? PulseChain, no clawback, so that's going to be very awesome. And then just some other stuff too. So Remorseless and some other people as well. And we can get into Bitfinesse's comment a little bit later. But anyways, let's do the intro, just see how it goes. And yeah, be back in 90 seconds.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to comment. Yeah. Say hey. Say hey. Motherfucking jackpot. We still jackpot, bitch!
Thank you, Richard, for creating and founding the most amazing and disruptive financial technology cryptocurrency ever. Thank you, sir. And nice streams, Mr. BallietBran.
All right, let's bring on Crypto7. Hey, what's up, my friend?
Hi, Brian, man. How you doing?
Doing great. It's good to see you. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, buddy. Thanks. I watched an interview with you recently, and the interview was saying, what do you like to go by? BallietBran, Brandon. And you said, I like Brand Man. And I thought, that's it. I'm definitely calling you. It's Brand Man. It's got to be Brand Man, hasn't it? Put a comment in, people. If you think Brand Man's what we should call Balliet from now on, but I think that's great.
Yeah, you don't choose your nicknames. You don't.
Yeah, that's right.
People call you by.
And I think the community should choose that, because I think that's great, because you are such a character and you're well liked. And I think Brand Man is definitely the way we should be going for you, I think.
That's awesome. I always like that input. It's funny that you say that, because my email, obviously I'm not going to dox the whole thing, but part of it does have Brand Man in it. Since I was 11 years old, I've had that email. So that's quite funny, over 14 years.
Perfect.
But and actually, it's funny that you also say that, because I used to cook a lot. I mean, a couple of my YouTube videos had baking and stuff like this, and my brothers, 3 older brothers, they used to call me Brand Man the chef.
Oh, okay.
Also funny.
I thought maybe you got it from the American football, because you did a bit of football as well, didn't you?
Yeah, but yeah, as far as the football goes, wasn't a huge fan, but yeah, played football for maybe, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years total, something.
So that was meeting other people's sort of dreams for you, and now you're meeting your own dreams. Or am I putting words in your mouth?
Oh no, you're definitely right. It's something that was obviously great to have as a younger kid, and but now that I'm older, yeah. No more.
Yeah, great.
So, but anyways, dude, how have you been, man? It's been a little while since we've done our last stream, and I think a lot of people really liked the talk that we had.
Oh, I've been good. I mean, I'm busy. I'm full-time crypto, and what that basically means for me is more or less every waking hour, I'm researching crypto. And I thought, well, if I'm doing that, I may as well start a channel and share some of the information and knowledge and give some of my views in. And so that's what I've started doing, and I seem to be getting great feedback. People seem to appreciate that. I enjoyed doing our first stream, and one of the reasons I really like your channel is because you keep it very content filled, very fact filled. In researching Hex, because I've started off focusing on Pulse, and I've been looking more at Hex, and I'm preparing my first sort of Hex video at the moment. And I sit through a lot of Hex videos, and they're all very nice, and I get to know the people and things. But I got to be honest, some of them I think, well, that's an hour of my life I'm not getting back, because it's billed as some revelation about Hex, and they pretty much don't even talk to me about Hex in the entire video. Now, that's cool, and Hex has got a great community, and it's doing wonderful things for doing sort of one-to-one onboarding, and that's inspirational to hear about people having all this money and things. But a lot of them, they're not going past that, and I think, all right, that's another hour I wasted. And I'm doing 60 or 70 hours a week, and I don't have time to watch all the videos. So I figure, what about the guys and girls who are still working or studying, and they just want some information. Should I invest in Pulse or not? Am I too late for Hex? And they want something distilled, and so that they can get on with their lives. I mean, I don't have a life so that other people can have one. I certainly wouldn't dream of going. I certainly wouldn't dream of going on holiday at the moment, and I don't have a social life. So I love being able to connect with people like you, because all the people I know, they've got lives outside of crypto, so they'll talk to me a bit about it. But it's through the internet that you really find people like you, but with crypto, and that's try to make my channel about. So if you watch one of my videos and you get to the end and think, well, I didn't really learn anything there, or there was nothing original there, or he didn't get me thinking at all, then let me know and I'll give you your money back, because I really that's kind of my commitment to you, the viewer, if you do want to consider depressing that subscription button on the Crypto 7 channel. Plug over.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, exactly, and I actually did forget to put that. I'll add that to the description. I was
man, I was
setting
joking.
up, and I got the Twitter channels, but I'll get that one added too.
Yeah, no worries, dude.
It's true. I mean, I look at and by the way, before I get to David Morales's comments, this gentleman, so Hex Elements, I think I retweeted maybe one of them last night, but he's I don't know about streamer, but I know at least he's made a few videos, and I saw one of them last night for the first time, and it was actually really good. He did like a 5-minute synopsis of like why Hex was better than Bitcoin, and I really
I missed that.
Yeah. I mean, everyone should definitely
Could you put a link? Could you put a link to that video in?
Yeah.
Oh, this is it again. You haven't got time to watch them all, have you? But could you put a link in that?
Yeah.
So he's a new YouTuber, is he?
Yeah. So let's see, Hex Elements, Hex.
Thanks.
So yeah, he's a new YouTuber, and he's really good. Maybe Hex Element. Maybe you can actually throw the link in there. I see you in the chat. I mean, it might be easier for him than me to do it live right this second. But
yeah,
the point that I'm getting at, the point that I'm getting at was David's comment that it's impossible to keep up with the streams, but I sure try. And it's as you said. I mean, not only crypto content, but especially Hex or even PulseChain content is so abundant that, you really do have to pick and choose. And I remember in the beginning when it was just like, it seemed like such a small amount and you could keep up with it. And then, I tried to keep up with it, and it's like now it's, there's only so many hours in the day. You can't keep up with all of it. So it's
there are
a problem.
Well, there are, aren't there? And that's why I summarize Richard's. I'm sure we'll get onto that, but Richard's latest video, which is nearly 2 hours, with those professional poker players, they were outstanding, weren't they? They were really good. And so I summarized that. In fact, I've just did that earlier today. If anyone wants to check that out,
perfect, man.
Yeah, so that's on my channel. But there was some interesting things around Pulse and launch on that, I thought.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I'll definitely show that in a second here. I did find the Hex Element guy, so you should give this guy a follow and check out
well done.
his YouTube channel too. But it's just literally Hex Element, so that's always nice when, as Richard says, like not compound names, but if I have like BallietBran on like Facebook, but then on YouTube I have like Brandman or something, then it's harder to find that same person across platforms. So it's nice that it's Hex Element here, and then this is his video that I was talking about. So I'll just link that real quick here.
Great.
Actually, I'll link the tweet so then people can follow him and then do it. But you mentioned the stream yesterday. What's up, Johnny? Nice to see you. You mentioned the stream yesterday.
Hiya, Johnny.
Poker players. Richard has always said, like, hey,
they were good,
if
weren't
you
they?
give me better people, then you'll have a better interview.
Yeah.
So it goes to show you like the difference between like a Peter McCormick and a or like a Israeli guy, forgetting his name, but him or these guys yesterday, like night and day difference. So
Antonopoulos or something, Andronopoulos or something.
No, it was someone else. I'm sure the chat would know. Right now, I'm just blanking the second, but yeah, to your point, there was a lot of updates on Pulse. I mean, one of the major ones was that, I mean, obviously, the people that have Ethereum, you're going to get a little bit of freemium, but and you don't even have to claim it, which is really cool. But now, as opposed to having like a clawback, which is like after 30 days they were going to take it away if you didn't move to another address. Now they're going to have, that code is not going to do the clawback, and it's just going to stay there forever, so the people can use it if they happen to discover their airdrop, less or 30 days later.
I think that's nice, don't you? So some people will get a nice surprise. Say they take 6 months or 6 years to see how much that's worth. It could have appreciated into something very significant. So that's nice.
It was Yavin. Thank you, Identity Block. No, Crypto 7, you're right. And also Ivan on Tech, he had mentioned the same thing to Richard. When Richard mentioned the clawback, he said, well, what if they find out about it later, and then they don't have any Pulse in there to do the transactions with. So that's cool. And also it makes it a lot more efficient on the actual blockchain itself. So that's kind of what's important.
That's right. And he was pretty clear, Brandman, in two places in that 2-hour interview. He said that mainnet would be within a month or two, which means end of year is very much still alive, guys. End of year for Pulse mainnet. The fork, of course, will coincide with the launch. They're one and the same. And I think within minutes or hours, there will be a market value, and that's when you can start to try and buy some PLS, some Pulse. And so that's really exciting. And I think that my guess is, I'm just guessing now, we're probably slightly more likely than unlikely to get a Pulse before the end of the year. But otherwise, Jan looks very, very favorable. And Richard is a master of managing expectations. I don't think he would be saying a month or two if he meant 3 or 4. So I think we can be fairly confident on that.
Well, surely you've never heard about the 4 more weeks meme.
yeah.
It was 4 more weeks for like a year. No, but I'm agreeing with you. Especially with a lot of the minimum viable product that Richard's mentioned. The thing with software and Hex was a lot different because it's locked. Once you launch that smart contract and you throw away the keys, now it's just running. So whatever you had, any bugs, they would stay there. But yeah, for PulseChain, it seems that they've really got a lot of people working on it. And anyways, I'm really happy for it. I'm really excited. And I think it's going to be quite big. I mean, if you look at just, once again, the Telegram participation in Pulse now versus what we have with even Hex, there's just a huge, more broad demand. And Pulse doesn't seem to be getting gate kept as much as Hex has had, right? So people are definitely a lot more, open to the to the first project as opposed to the first product.
Oh, Brian, man, I'm sure it's going to be huge. Guys, if you've already got something out of this from what Brian's saying, please give us a like, because every like gets a crypto video in front of another person on YouTube who might not be in crypto already. So they might be in fiat and slavery at the moment. So that like button, which takes half a second for you to depress, it's really powerful. So please just give Brian a like, and that would be fantastic. Yeah. No, I'm of the belief that that Pulse is going to be even bigger than everybody thinks, and the reason for that, I provide this reasoning in one of my videos, which is that I think there would have been a lot of discussions about the value of Pulse at a corporate level, where somebody in their 20s would have pitched this to the senior management team, and they just said, look, this is like an ETH killer, it's faster, it's greener, it's deflationary. And they're going to go, look, yeah, you've convinced me, but take this forward with the accounts team. And a lot of companies that are relatively small, say 15 staff, are investing in the money markets and things. And I think when they took that forward, all the gatekeepers, as I call them, the people in the office who have the job of just managing the expenditure, I think they would have checked out the PulseChain website. All of them would have done, and I think they all would have seen this big disclaimer saying that that this is not a financial transaction and don't expect anything in return, and you're making some sort of political statement. And then I think they'd have all just gone, whoa, what's this? And it's okay, the boss has said, yeah, I don't care about that, I'm not letting this go through. And I've seen that sort of conversation. I was that youngster back in the day, and I had people who used to look after me and say, no, Chris, we can't do this because the auditors will absolutely do their nut. Look at this. It's basically saying that we're sending this money to this charity and we're not going to get anything back. And what they're looking for is the absolute opposite. They want some sort of contract. They want some sort of commitment. So I think they'd have gone, great, I'm glad you've convinced the senior management team, but I'm not going to pay this. So what we'll do is we'll just wait till launch day and we'll just pay then. So there's this really peculiar and completely unprecedented a waiting room of buyers. So always, of course, you get this flurry of buyers when something as exciting as Pulse gets launched. But here we've also got this sort of massive tsunami waiting room of buyers waiting to press buy. And of course, nobody wants to sell. A lot of the people who have sacrificed or have already made lots of money in Hex, so they're not daft. The Hexicans are certainly not daft. They're not going to sell to make a 10x. They're not going to sell to make a 100x. You know? And so who's going to be selling? I mean, there are people that sell sometimes. In fact, but, you know, that's my view. Hey, talking about people selling, what's this? You might know more about this. What's this? Some whale or other has been emergency end staking.
You know, honestly, yeah, I didn't see that until a few minutes before the stream, so I haven't actually verified everything. People post in the chat some verification. I heard a little bit about some sort of emergency end staking, but hey, you know what's the beautiful thing about that is the emergency end stake, whether it be someone got hacked, someone got robbed, or someone needs to end their stake for an emergency. Well, guess what? Half those penalties go to the origin address, which has shown at least time in hands from everything that we've seen, and then the other half goes to the staker class. So, you know,
that's what I think as well. You know, a lot of guys and girls are just getting divorced at the moment, aren't they? And you know, that's an emergency in itself, but they might need the money. I think a lot of people forget that you know, I think that and we can talk about the Hex price a bit in a bit, but I think that Hex has been the racehorse the last year or two. And people look at it and say, well, look, it's been the racehorse. And now, to continue the horse analogy, let's let it rest a little bit, which I think is what the price is doing at the moment. And let's maybe jump onto some of these other metaverse plays, the gaming, the Solanas. You know, there are a lot of things that are making terrific gains at the moment. And I don't think it's sacrosanct to say that, you know, well, you know, let's acknowledge that Hex is a great performer. It's probably the best racehorse, but all racehorses need a rest. And I think they're just thinking, well, look, we'll come back to that. And I think a lot of eyes are on Hex at the moment. I think they're just waiting to see what happens with PulseChain. I think they're waiting for confirmation that PulseChain is going to enable the easy transactions on Hex and the reduced gas fees. And then I think that's what's going to trigger the next massive wave. I don't even know what the Hex price is at the moment. It just seems to be resting around 20 cents, doesn't it?
Well, and it's interesting people's psychology sometimes, because when we take a look at this, so this is monthly, and I always like to have like a zoomed out perception, and it's on the logarithmic, like Richard always talks about, which I always look at. But the thing is, you have 5 consecutive months of big ass green candles, and one decent red candle month, and then another half.
It's just a straight line up and to the right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that is really
Yeah. The thing that's interesting is, a lot of people, they're just so almost like ADD or ADHD. They're just so impatient, and they want to. Okay, let me just Bannerooski, one of these people.
They're like goldfish, aren't they? I mean, they're like little children in the back of the car asking their dad when they're going to get there. We all are. And some of it's understandable, but we just have to try and fight that. That's what we have to fight, isn't it?
Right. So, well, the thing about the gains and stuff like that is everyone's chasing the shiny object, right? That shiny object syndrome. And I agree with Richard that there's a lot of just a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense in the like hyperbolic activity, like with the NFTs still. And Richard mentioned, people like Jimmy O'Fallon or one of the Tonight Show guys putting his username as an NFT, and just all of the kind of stuff in the space that, and you have Bitcoin pumping, or at least that it was at least, but you have the market kind of over there, which people are chasing. And then you've got something like Hex that had 5 months, green, and then right now, a month and a half of consolidation. And it's usually, somewhat decorrelated to the other things going on.
He absolutely roasted him for that, didn't he? This obsession with these monkeys with baseball caps smoking cigarettes. He was saying they don't even have the IP on those. So they're dropping, like guys like BitBoy are spending £200,000 or £300,000 on a monkey thing, and they don't even have the IP on it, and they're not even secure, I don't think. Absolutely insane. I mean, NFTs are great, and you would put them in video games and give them some practical application, anti-fraud, that sort of thing. I'm a fan of NFTs, but I really don't get it at all. I think the best NFT is an Ethereum or a Hex token. Because those are immutable, those are rare, those are special. I feel I have a bunch of NFTs by having a balanced crypto portfolio. I'm quite attached to and that's more real than some image of a monkey smoking a cigarette, in my view.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about the NFTs, and it's not like Richard has always the thing that he's most despised about it is the degeneracy of the gambling and the speculation, like $1 million for a JPEG, like he mentions. But the interesting thing about it's going to be the what people's paradigms are when you see a copy of the exact same NFT that's now being hosted on the PulseChain. That'll be interesting for people's paradigms to think that this is so rare, but then you can have a hard fork with the system state, and guess what? That thing that you thought was so rare is now its own unique NFT on the PulseChain.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? That's going to be another reason for people to be checking out PulseChain. It's like this amazing showroom, and he's found this reason to drag all the people with money through the showroom. It's very, very clever. It's very, very clever what he's done. I mean, when you think about it, Hex has been the best performing currency of all time in the period, and now it's like he's had a go to make something perhaps even better, but that is very much supportive of Hex. It's incredibly clever, very symbiotic relationship there. It's absolutely marvelous, yeah. So that's my view on the Hex price. I think that it's just I think the sellers are exhausted. I think they had their chance to sell if they wanted to when the price went up to about 31 cents recently. And I think the sellers are exhausted. But I think the buyers are just thinking, well, look, I'll just keep an eye on this. I've done really well. I'm not going to buy any more at the moment. I will redouble my investment once we get confirmation that it's business back to usual in a month or two when PulseChain comes out. And that's why it's so exciting about Pulse, because Pulse is going to pump pump our hex bags. I'm a very recent Hexican. In fact, I got into Hex because I wanted to know as much as possible about Pulse, and in doing so, I sat through a lot of Hex videos, and just became convinced. I think a Crypto Heartbeat describes Hex as a financial instrument, which I think is a very clever way of describing it. I think you describe it as I like your description. It's like the best savings bond in the sky, and I think that's a very good description as well. So they're very, very different beasts, Pulse and Hex, which is one of the reasons why there's no chance of one taking the win from the sales of the other. Which Richard knows what he's doing. Yeah.
Well,
so
yeah, I mean, you're right. They're just two different purposes and functions. You're totally right. Let me just address some of the comments. So Anon Jawa says, "Oh no, did I miss Toby One?" No, I had to update the title. He said he might be able to join it later. He had something come up, so we're just playing it by ear. If he wants to come on later, then great. They also say some of us are old, Bran. LOL. We don't have 15 years. LOL. That's fine. I mean, hey, look at the 10,000x that we saw by not even staking, right? So that's literally holding liquid, and from day 33 to like 3 months ago. So
that's right. And 10,000x is the same as 1,000,000%, of course. It's probably most people know that, but that's why Richard said. That's why Richard also describes it as 1,000,000% or 2 million if you staked. Nice, beautiful, elegant round numbers, which will catch people's eye. I think there's a lot of investors looking at Hex at the moment. In fact, in my summary video I did earlier today, somebody said, because I said, it'd be great when people like Raoul Pal are buying Hex, and he said he thinks he has commented on one of his videos on it, so it might be he's looking at it already. Because one of the most interesting things about Hex that Richard said today or yesterday, depending on when you're tuning in, was he said that as far as he knows, there aren't any billionaires yet in Hex, which I thought was really interesting. Because of course, if we've achieved what we've achieved without any billionaires, I'd imagine what we're going to achieve when the billionaires start buying as well.
Well, I don't know if that's actually true or not. I mean, we know that the Godwill for a fact is in Hex, the 6660, and they're like in Ethereum. I'm pretty sure they are a billionaire.
Because they're a Genesis.
And either way, it's just bullish no matter what. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that like you mentioned, kind of like the goldfish brain. People are so short-sighted, especially when other stuff is pumping. They want to focus over there versus like the long-term game, like the tortoise versus the hare. But it's really cool.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. Godwill is a billionaire in Ethereum alone. Yeah, thank you, Motley.
Yeah, no, thanks.
I thought that was correct. But how bullish is it that Richard's mentioning that people that know people that have like hundreds of millions of dollars are talking to Richard to get onboarded, like things like that. And then Richard had mentioned, I think the like some sort of largest credit card processing thing is going to be accepting Hex sometime, at least in his most recent stream. That's what I thought I had heard. So really cool information going on.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think he said he doesn't know anyone personally who's a billionaire who's in Hex, but as Motley points out, well, there's definitely the Godwell. So it just shows that he doesn't know the Godwell. Speaking of the Godwell, Richard confirmed recently that he likes him, that he's a benevolent force. And so that's nice to know. And he also clarified how he can't possibly be the Godwell, because the Godwell's been saying nice things about Vitalik, exact same time as Richard was pointing out the shortcomings of Ethereum. So that's very clever as well, isn't it? They can't be the same person.
I mean, I don't know, dude. People always come up with conspiracies that have no evidence and have no logic or evidence.
Well, that's why I like your channel, because
speculations.
That's what I like your channel, because you try to avoid all that. And there's been a lot of that going on lately, hasn't there? There's been like some sort of Twitter drama, and then we get videos talking about the Twitter drama, and then videos dissecting the talk about the video drama. And it's like, oh my God, can't we just keep to the content, and can't we just tell people some useful information, which is, I think, something you're very good at.
Well, it's really easy to get like caught up in the weeds and stuff, but especially with what has made this community successful and with what we should all be focusing on. yeah, I'm kind of just focusing on what I can control. And at the end of the day, you know, everyone's got their own opinions, and sometimes they feel like they need to be heard, even though it's not necessary. But yeah, I like to just keep it to like what can benefit people. I mean, the whole reason that I've, you know, done this channel, kept all the other videos, is because I thought even some of the stuff that wasn't crypto related might be beneficial, you know. So it's just trying to just stay on topic and to the point, you know. There's always going to be stuff that happens off camera or, you know, in messages and stuff, but I prefer not to talk about that. It's not beneficial to anyone, you know.
You know, well, you know, Brand man, it's only because you're becoming quite a face behind Hex, and you're successful, that you'll always get a minority of people. It doesn't bother me. Yeah, I'm not concerned. I've only had one or two trolls. I'm quite excited to get a troll now. So
no,
anyway,
they're
it doesn't bother me at all.
Well, it's actually, yeah, it's the opposite. It's very exciting. It's very bullish because, you know, I just had one that
I'm a lot older and I'm a lot older and uglier than you, so you know I've had the I've had the chance to get the thicker skin. Yeah.
It's almost like I've heard RG3 talk about it, but like he's dealt with so much stuff growing up. He said he's like, I've heard and I've taken a lot worse from a lot, meaner people than these keyboard warriors, and growing up with Thriller Brothers and just some other stuff. Same thing. You learn to not take stuff personally and just realize it is really like a psychological projection. But for me, like if they're on my channel anymore, I try not to address it, just immediately hide it. And that way you can get back to what's important. If you focus on what they want, which is the attention, then you're feeding into their narrative. So Hex Element says, keep up the great Hex and PulseChain content grind. You too, man. And yeah, everyone should go subscribe to his channel. And then same thing with yours, Crypto7. I got your link in the description now.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so it's going back to billionaires. I think there's definitely billionaires buying. There were billionaires sacrificing, and as I say, I think there's more billionaires that are thinking, yeah, well, I would love to, but our terms of reference for our company don't allow us to sacrifice at the moment, but we'll do so on launch. But I think there's going to be a lot of billionaires getting into Pulse. I think Richard's really nailed it with Pulse. I know, greener, faster, cheaper, deflationary. You know, great name.
Yeah, PulseChain it's a wonderful name.
It's lovely.
A lot of us love that. Kind of goes in line with the Richard Hart or the Hex and stuff like that. But even Rackhammer Shell, I'm pretty sure Overwatch, he's another billionaire, I'm pretty sure. So, it's all, I mean, and, Funding Gym was onboarding Robert Kiyosaki the other day, and we've got some photos with them, which is cool. But the awesome thing is as you mentioned, they both serve their own purpose, and they both like lift each other up. Toby is going to be coming, by the way, in a few minutes. He's wrapping up. So he'll be on a little bit later too, which will be cool to have him here. But it's just so early. I was talking to another pretty successful person yesterday, and they wanted me to onboard them into Hex, and it's really cool to see that it is at that point that Richard mentions, whether it be for scams or whether it be for like legitimate things like Bitcoin and stuff in Hex, that it's usually at this time in the life cycle, around 2 years, when they really have their like explosive parabolic moves. So I think we're going to see that with Hex not too shortly. I mean, you look at the first 2 years, 10,000x, but it is designed to do what Bitcoin did of the 6.5 or now 6.9 million in under a shorter amount of time. So, people just need to have kind of some patience, and, but most people don't want to delay gratification. They want the marshmallow today, but to each his own,
Yeah, I reckon you must have onboarded a lot of people, Brandman, over the years in Hex.
Yeah, a decent amount. I mean, the cool thing is to the person that I was talking to last night, some of the people that had talked to him about crypto in the past, they had come to him, and it was almost like an MLM or like a Ponzi scheme or like an Amway type of thing, where you're trying to like onboard your family, and it's like, well, if it's so good, why are you trying to like pressure the person into onboarding? And for him, he's like, why do you want me to get into Hex? And I was like, I don't, like it doesn't benefit me at all. Like, if you want to, you can, but the product really sells itself. And it's doing it so much where the people that I onboarded now, they're onboarding their friends and their family just because they've heard of the gains. And you hear about that 100% uptime. And you think about Bitcoin doing 6.9 million X now with like 2 major inflation bugs. And Hex is kind of on track to do the same thing with no inflation bugs.
Yeah. Yeah. What about Pulse? Should we speculate a little bit about normally when you get a launch? Well, normally when you get a launch, you've got sort of like a volatile upward movement, and then at some point, some big bag holder takes profit, and that sort of creates a bit of a precipitation of a lot of people taking profits. I don't see that for a long while with Pulse, really. Back to this waiting room of demand and just the fact it's been promoted so well. As you say, there's more people already on the Telegram group. I mean, I get so much interest. I know it's very wonderful and welcome on my videos. I get so many comments and I reply to them all, but so many people are interested in the sacrifice per se. The main bit of the sacrifice, as it was very short, and a lot of people missed it. And I only didn't miss it because I missed Hex originally. Have I said this already? It's late here. Sorry, I'm underwater with Hex. By the way, you might not have thought it because I'm all optimistic.
Did you ever?
But I'm fine with that. No, I haven't staked yet, just because I know it's silly, but just because I'm underwater, I'm waiting a bit, I think, and and I'm not going to get. I'm excited that there's a conference on the 2nd in London as well, but I won't go to that because it's another 300 quid, and I'm already quite a bit. I bought. Don't tell the missus, but I bought 80K's worth of Hex at around 40 something cents. So I'm underwater, but I've been in crypto a while and I've seen it all before. And for me, so long as the project hasn't changed, nothing's changed, there's not been any, serious issues, no bugs, Richard hasn't gone under a bus, then I know it's going to come back good. So it's all good. Yeah, that conference on the 2nd, but it's not about me anyway. That conference on the 2nd, I think that could. One of the things I've noticed in the years is that, it happened recently with the Solana conference in Lisbon, Portugal, where those conferences, and the one in Dubai was the same. They always pump the price. The only time a crypto conference doesn't pump prices is in a bear market. If at any time there's a conference in a bull market, because you've got the VCs, you've got the investors, they're all sniffing around, and of course they're buying, and they have a few drinks at the bar, and it's like, what should I be getting into now? Gala, okay. What's this Decentraland? Yeah, we'll have some of that as well. What's this PulseChain? Yeah. So Hex is going to be this Hex conference. I can see, and there's also talk. Who knows? We may know more about Pulse on the 2nd, but Richard has made it clear he doesn't like the speculation. Because he told all off, didn't he, for speculating too much?
Well, I think he would love to, launch it whenever it's ready, and a big event like that would be cool, obviously, as far as like a speculative launch. But same thing, he's not willing to rush it if it's not ready, just because there's a big event, So I respect him for doing that. And,
no, he's definitely not going to. It's too soon to launch it on the 2nd. This potentially could maybe say we're going to launch in a couple of weeks on the 2nd, but yeah, we won't go back there because he's made it clear he doesn't like the speculation. At first, I thought, well, that's a bit strong, Richard. We're all just having fun speculating. It's all interest, isn't it? No PR. All PR is good PR, or whatever the saying goes. But then I thought about it, and I thought, no, he's like an architect who's been asked to build this fantastic building, all bespoke with methods and material we've never seen before. And then a couple of weeks later, the client's down the bottom of the garden and they're all like speculating on when's it going to be out then, we just have to deploy a bit of patience. We know it's going to be soon. We know it's going to be 4 to 8 weeks because that's what Richard says. So I think that's what it'll be.
Yeah, honestly, I don't really care when it's launched. For me, it's just the from what I've seen with success in my own gains and Hex and things like this, that's why I'm a fan of staking, but is that the delayed gratification is rewarded, right? Even the people staking for a year are getting like an 18% yield, which is absolute killer. So this whole time while, you're quote unquote underwater, you're earning yield every single day.
Yeah,
and
and it's a Sensi Dozy says here, I should stake. I know. I'm just being honest.
Well, I mean, anyone can do whatever they want. I mean, when you're not staked.
Yeah, I think just because I'm underwater, I fancy the liquidity. But I think that, I'm sure that when things pick up, because I know they will, I'm sure I'll look at it then.
Well, it just depends on like what your time horizon is, right? Everyone's time horizon's a little bit different, and I don't think people should judge people on that either way. But if your time horizon happens to be something that you can delay gratification for even like 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, etc., then sometimes
I think you get about 16%
sometimes the actual
1 year,
like
don't you?
the shares that you earn, whether it be 1 trillion shares, things like that. Every single day you're being paid out per those T shares. So if you had like 100 T share stake, you'd be doing pretty damn good every single day just on the Hex. But anyways, it's all cool, right? Because the game theory dynamics of it, where it's similar to Bitcoin and the fact that, hey, you can send it, you can mine it, you can sell it. But the fact that you can earn the yield optionally if you want to, I think is really cool. But even for the people that don't, the only thing that's happening is you're just being diluted a little bit by the inflation, but you could still sell whenever you want when it has those mad gains, those 10,000x gains, which is really cool too.
Is Hex, and forgive me because I've been more focused on Pulse, and just as I said earlier, I'm just starting to get into Hex, and can you do peer-to-peer with Hex? Can you, if I wanted to send you Hex, can I send you Hex, and vice versa?
Yeah. So. And Toby, I see you in the back. Just give me a thumbs up, I guess, whenever you want to come on. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, you can send Hex. It's just like any other ERC20 token built on Ethereum, cool. Where you can send it, you can stake it, right? You can sell it on a DEX, things like that. Limit orders are probably best if you're going to do so. But yeah, I mean, okay, cool. Toby's ready. So
great.
What's up, Toby?
Hey, hi guys. How's it going?
Good.
Doing great, man.
So sorry to keep you waiting. It's like but it was kind of good to be able to listen to it a little bit and learn a little bit about Crypto 7 because I was unfamiliar.
Hi, buddy.
It had been a relatively chill day. Man, my lighting is going nuts. It's like has this automatic aperture thing on my camera on my laptop, and then I've got exterior lighting, and it's like just blowing my face off. That's probably.
I caught a video of you. I'd seen one video of yours, and I thought, oh, this is a really nice, chill guy. You just tell straight away. Really nice vibe. So yeah,
thank you.
Great.
I try.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's like life will have a way of happening. Like I was having a pretty chill day today, and then some personal stuff popped up out of the blue. It's like, oh God, what's happening? And so I had to tend to that for a bit. Luckily, it's all good news. So nothing to be worried about.
Good.
It's kind of like when you get pulled over, and then the cop lets you off, and he doesn't give you a ticket. So there's that adrenaline boost, like you dodged a bullet, So it's like I actually feel really, really good right now. and it's always good to be on with Bran. He's just like a pillar of the community and just like the nicest guy, not just Hex, but all of crypto. And like a genuine real life friend. So I'm happy to be on the stream with you, Bran. I think I might've been on with you just ever so briefly a long time ago when I was promoting the Hexaco music video.
Yeah, I think so.
It was right after I got my little Yoda doll. So I had my Yoda with me. And, but other than that, I can't believe I haven't actually been on like a proper stream. So this is fun. And I'm glad Crypto 7's here. So I'm not like on the spot too much. Sounds like he has a lot of good stuff to add. So Crypto 7, out of curiosity, so how long have you been in crypto in general?
Since 2017, but late 2017. I started in Ethereum mining, and I really went down the rabbit hole, and I was with a bunch of guys who were also Ethereum mining, but I quickly worked out that in the UK, electricity is quite expensive, and I thought, and I could see the price of Ethereum soaring, and I thought, well, I'm better off investing here. So I quickly sold all my mining gear and what there was, and used the money to buy crypto. And during the bear market, I just got dollar cost average down, and I was just completely hooked. I was sure it was going to come back, because I got that it was a paradigm shift, that this was going to be the end for the banks, and it was a new way of doing things. The end for people like Western Union charging a fortune for poor Mexicans to send money to their families. The end for the banks robbing the El Salvadorians and not allowing them bank accounts and things like that. And I was pretty sure that it was at the very least going to go back to the sort of figures it was. So when we got to the bottom, I'm quite interested in sentiment analysis as well. And you could really see that people were chucking their toys from the pram when Ethereum got down to about $80. And so I bought a fair bit then. And that's worked out very well for me. What didn't work out so well was I was convinced in my mind that Litecoin, described as the little brother of Bitcoin, and having gone down from $400 and something to $22, I thought, well, that has to be a steal, doesn't it? And I couldn't see much wrong with it, but I really underestimated how much their CEO had turned off the community by selling at the top, and he Charlie Lee, wasn't it? And they never forgave him for that. And my big mistake wasn't buying a shed load of Litecoin at $22. It was not getting rid of it. And it was only in recent weeks I finally found some more in a wallet and sold it, or converted it for something else. So that didn't go so well. So yeah, that's how long I've been in crypto, and I've been loving the journey. What about yourself?
Yeah, similar for crypto. I did some day trading in stocks. I mean, I've invested my whole life, but as far as like actual degen trading stuff, I guess technically that would have began back in the mid 90s when I did some day trading, back when you would, I would go to a library in the morning and use their connection to get online and do my trades. And then I would go to school or work, and then continue and see how it went the next day. And then in flash forward to 2017 is when I got introduced to crypto. Similar time frame, late 2017, so prior to the big run up. Thought I absolutely had hit the mother lode of investment opportunities, and then rode it all the way to the top, and then over the cliff, and then I just dollar cost averaged all the way down, and then kind of ground my way out from the bottom of the bear, including a bag of Litecoin. So I was around when Charlie called the top and dumped it on us, and then turned around. And if you recall, he actually even told us that he thought it could go as low as 22. So how ironic that it actually fulfilled that prophecy. So yeah, that was a bunch of shit, because I was a big Litecoin advocate. I was really high on Charlie Lee and what he brought to the community space, and what I thought was integrity at the time. And so I clawed my way out of the hole up until about October of 2019. Still didn't end up even. I've got a bone to pick with Charlie Lee. He still owes me $14,000, and there will be a day when I go back and trade Litecoin long enough to get my 14 grand back. But I was even or up on everything else, thankfully. But man, it was a grind. It's like I have much less hair now than I did then. Sleepless nights and waking up to alerts and compromising relationships, and just by being so glued to charts and that kind of grind of trading, all while trying to work full-time running my family's business, and it was a grind. So when I stumbled across Richard in 2018, it was a real eye-opener. My brother had passed away a year prior to stumbling into Richard. Saw him on the Doug Polk podcast, the poker player. And I always enjoyed Doug Polk. I don't know if you remember him from late 17. Yeah, late 17, early 18. He was great. It's like he was
very clever guy.
Very clever, very entertaining. Really, really enjoyed his streams and his insights. And he just always had this little wry smile. And he was just charming and a fun guy to watch. And then, so I saw Richard there, and just, a lot of what he was saying, he was talking about CFD token at that point. And a lot of what he was saying was just hit me at the perfect time in my life, because it was about, having purpose, and, and I was kind of struggling with those ideals, especially with my brother passing away at such a young age. And so I actually messaged him on Twitter, and to my surprise, he wrote me back. And, you know, had a really supportive, kind message for me. And then I was hooked. You know, I'm like, not only did I think this guy was like, you know, a great example of integrity and, you know, altruism, but he takes time to reply to some random guy on Twitter with like no followers. It's like, that's just crazy. So I continued to follow him, and followed him right into Hex. But you know, it's like almost every Hex investor I talk to is the only regret they have eventually. I know that you're underwater right now, but eventually the regret they have is that they didn't get in earlier, or they didn't get in with more, you know? So I think you'll look back. Did you say you got in at 46 cents? I think I overheard.
Yeah, I averaged, you know, some was a bit lower, some was maybe a bit higher, but yeah, it's all good. I've been here before with other cryptos where I've bought tops and it's worked out fine. I think I bought a Solana top until it trebled about, you know, for the following 6 to 8 weeks. You know, it's just fine. I'm sure it'll be good. Sorry to hear about your brother, by the way.
Yeah, it's been I can't believe it's been almost 5 years now, but it's yeah, that's a big loss, you know, for sure, for me and my family. And but he would have loved Richard. He was my brother was a numbers guy, and I often think like what a hardcore Hexican he would have been, and he would have been so excited about all this stuff. But I definitely commiserate with you on buying the top. I am what's the right word? I guess proud to say that I bought every top in Hex along the way. So I bought. I think no, it's fine. I've done 4 cents on that last run up. I've done
okay for myself in crypto, and so I could. I can afford to do well. And I think why I wanted to share this with the community is because, as somebody who's got some what I think are very solid crypto investments and done well out of crypto, I still was convinced enough to buy Hex, and I think these are the people that we want to be getting next, or more of them rather. Of course, there's a lot of serious crypto people already invested, but we want. It's back to something I was saying with Brandman. We want to get more now of the billionaires, more of the seriously wealthy people getting into Richard's projects. But I'm not concerned, and it's great. It's just a matter of just being patient, and it'll all turn out good. Like you, I was following Richard for years. It's just so kicking myself because I really wanted to get into Hex, and God knows why I didn't. It just sounded. I watched all his videos about Hex as well, and the more I watched them, the more I don't know. It just seemed a bit complicated, and I just didn't do it. I don't know why. And then when I started covering Pulse, and I was watching more videos about Hex, I thought, oh, gosh, it's dead easy. So all you got to do is exchange some Ethereum on a MetaMask wallet. Why didn't I do that before? It's one of those. But fool me once. Yeah, hindsight 2020. Fool me once. But that's why I've made sure. And there's a lot of people like this. They missed Hex, or they missed the early days in Hex, and they're getting in now. But yeah, I'm sure that Hex has got a long way to go, and that Pulse is going to help to support that next trajectory, as you say, as we go to $10 and $100.
Yeah. Well, Seven, I was just working with something last night, and it's something I've been saying a long time to my onboards and family and friends that I've gotten involved in Hex in personal conversations, and then also online, where one of the points I feel like is missed in a lot of the online content, or it's said, and it's just kind of like quickly you go on to the next thing. I think there's like this core element of Hex that people don't get in regard to staking. And I know that people are always preaching T-shares and staking, but for the novice, it's kind of blowing through. I mean, frick, I didn't figure out. Did you notice I just said frick instead of the F word? It's because I'm on Brand's stream, and he's so nice. I don't want to be rude on his stream.
Yeah.
An F-bomb might slip out. I'm just warning you, but I'm just saying, subconsciously I reined it in.
Not my stream either.
It's like he's just such a sweetheart. I'm like, Brand's just like, if I could have a little brother, Brand would be my #1 pick. But anyhow, what it seems, for me, I didn't understand T-shares for probably 6 months in. So, I was staking a long way. I mean, I got in since day 2 of the adoption amplifier, and I limped in, and for a while there, I was doing like an ETH a day. And then at the bottom, I got cold feet and got nervous. And then I went down to like 1/10 of an ETH. And I'm like, what the frick, man? because looking back, ETH was like what, $100, $150 then.
Yeah.
So it's like so really I had to take my dollar cost average down to $15 a day. Like I couldn't afford a $50. So I mean, of course, I'm just kicking myself in hindsight, like, oh, I could have had so much more Hex. But you know, when you're at the lows, it's nervy. It's hard to buy in, especially with a brand new project. As you know, if you were there for the 17, 18 pump and dump of the whole market, it's scary, you know, because you don't know if something's going to, you know, live up to the hype or, you know, become what you're hoping it might be.
Yeah. And I just think you just got to hope you can get slightly more right than wrong, and then you're fine, aren't you?
Right.
And
Right.
I really think that the Pulse is going to be the one that I got right, because I sacrificed.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And I wish I'd sacrificed more, but hey, you know, you can't have those sort of regrets, you know. I'm sure it's all going to be good. And
well, I'm gonna tell you something that's I think will help you and a lot of other people, because I have it's funny because of all of my onboards, the handful that are underwater right now are two of my accountants and a friend of mine that is an intern to be a surgeon. So it's so funny, like some of the smartest people I know are the ones that got in later because they were skeptical, and they, you know, they made their money by working hard and, like, you know, making smart, conservative investments. So they were less inclined to be risky, you know, or you know, maybe a little more risk adverse. So now I feel like, oh God, it's like I finally get these people to pay attention, even though some of them I was telling it about when it was under a penny, you know, they get in at 45, 46, 48 cents. And, you know, and I'm explaining to them, like, you know, just look at the log scale. It's like, you know, it's going to bounce back, blah, blah, blah. But here's the kicker, all right, that I think a lot of people miss is with staking, if you stake the average length of time, you're making approximately a 40% APY, right? So everybody kind of understands that on the surface, right? You know, and Richard even talked about it in his stream yesterday. You know, if you're what, 5.5 years, I think is the average. If you're at that point, then you're going to get the average APY, which is about 38 to 40. If you're lower than a length stake, then you're going to get a lower APY. Higher length stake, higher APY. So everybody kind of understands that on its face. But here's like the next layer of that I think people don't quite put together innately, and maybe subconsciously they kind of get it. But when you say it, it's amazing to me personally how many light bulbs I've watched come on in people's eyes. Okay, if you're making 40% APY, that means that the coin that you're in, because you're getting 40% more of them every year, could literally go down by 20% every year forever, and you will not be underwater. Your fiat value will be close to break even or slightly up. Yeah, if it goes down 20% a year forever. Now here's the flip side. If it's appreciating, which we've seen the price do phenomenally, and I think it'll continue to do, especially with the copy coming and everything else and the new opportunities on PulseChain, if it appreciates, now that 20%, you know, that you could air to the downside yearly, it's going to, that APY is now just going to be added on to your bag, to your principal. So you have 40% more coins a year, then that's going to amplify your gain. So like whatever you're making, you're not making it on 1,000 Hex anymore. If you've been in for a year, you now have 1,400 Hex, right? So you're making that price appreciation on
you're pretty much
more coins.
And you're pretty much guaranteed to never be underwater, aren't you? You're so high from the water then. You're pretty much in a hot air balloon above the sea then, aren't you? Yep,
exactly. And I actually did a little spreadsheet on it just night before last, I think. So I'm gonna post it. I was gonna throw it up on Twitter or something earlier, and I just didn't. I get busy with other things and haven't put it up yet. But it's just nice to see it, because a lot of people, you know, you say these things and it's, you know, you kind of get it, but it's like, for me, I'm a visual learner, so it's like if I can see it in like a spreadsheet or like a, you know, some sort of pictograph or something, it's like then it kind of clicks for me more, like, oh, okay, now I see how that all works together.
And I suppose I could always say stake half. Could I stake half of my Hex and leave the other half liquid?
Yeah, I mean,
what's going to stop me doing that? Is there
nothing at all? No, I mean, you could keep it all liquid, you could stake it all, you could do any percentages in between. My thinking has always been, and what I've told all of my onboards is, because right now we are stuck with the Ethereum network, and we don't know exactly when ETH 2.0 is going to come out, or if it necessarily is going to solve the problems with the expensive gas fees. Give it the best chance you can to avoid that by staking for no shorter than 2 years. if you stake for at least 2 years, then hopefully by that point, at least on the ETH side, they'll have their shit figured out, right? And by that point, hopefully the fees will be more reasonable, and it won't be eating in so much of your profits by giving that to miners in the form of gas.
I think
right?
I will. I think I will.
Yeah, and then that way, if you want to keep some liquid, it's not necessarily a bad play, I think, right now, especially considering the copy that's coming, because then you're going to have liquid Hex on the Pulse chain immediately. And then that way, if you care to speculate on any of the other PRC20 tokens, or if you want to maybe increase your Pulse bag because it looks like the ratio is such that it might make a good swap for your Hex for some additional Pulse, then you have some options to do that, and you're not just sitting on your hands and the only thing liquid you have is your Pulse bag, which maybe you don't want to let go of any of it for anything, even Hex necessarily, because my opinion is that I think that in the midterm, like maybe from 6 months to 18 months, personally, I think that Pulse will probably outperform Hex. Long term, I don't know that anything will beat Hex because of that, what we just talked about with that staking component and that, the ratcheting up of your value over time because you're getting that simulated compounding interest and the price appreciation on top. And I would encourage you, it's like, I'll actually drop a link to it in the chat, but there was a spreadsheet that Bree, a very famous member of our community, brilliant person, Hex Genius, I believe they go by on YouTube and some other places. But she had started off with this really, really elaborate spreadsheet that would probably melt most people's brains and almost melted mine, but I'm a super spreadsheet nerd. So I saw that, and then I thought, man, if I could just make this a little more user-friendly and take out some of the more esoteric things, like, certain statistical stuff that, is interesting for a super nerd, but, for most people are like, what? I don't need to know the percentage of that percentage, So I streamline it to where literally you put in your start date, your end date, your principal, the T-shares you got for that stake. And then there's a predictive model that gives you a very conservative idea of where the price may be in the next 15 years. And then also a relatively conservative model of what the Hex payout per T-share per day is. So you can literally plug in start date, end date, principal, T-shares, and it will calculate for you approximately what that value will be at the end of the stake, very conservatively. And then there's I added an additional column where you're like, okay, well, this is saying we're not even going to beat a dollar by 3 years from now. It says we're only going to make it to 80 cents. Well, I think it's going to go to $5 by then. So there's literally a column where you can be like, okay, well, what's this worth if it's $5? So you can put your own price in that you think it's going to be, and then do your own moon math with the spreadsheet. You're like, holy shit, this stake's going to be monumental. And I just updated it actually, I believe on the 18th. So it's got real current numbers in it. Somebody had 10 grand they were putting in and they were going to do 5 stakes with it. This is approximately what that could turn into. But I'll drop a link for it, and it's a great tool. Getting that from Bree changed the game for me. I went from limping in with smaller and smaller amounts to going in heavier and heavier, and really at that point starting to understand staking ladders. And that's what helped open my eyes to the power of the T-share. I still don't fully understand how it worked, but I could see the math of it and like the exponentiality, if that's a word, of it. But I think that might be something that.
And what's it showing? Is it showing that even at 80 cents, which I agree is way too conservative, is it showing that you get a great reward from the staking? And
let me grab it here. Hang on a second.
And the T-shares.
Sure. It is
because $3 sounds much nearer the mark, really, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. We just Juan Fernandez was also someone that had worked with him on that early spreadsheet and helped him come up with the predictive nature, of the predictive nature of the price going forward and the Hex per T-share over time. Let's see, it is. Oh, hey, speaking of which, while I'm searching for this file, a buddy of mine texted me today and said something about tomorrow we're going to have 39 Hex per T-share payout because somebody had some big giant emergency end stake, and I'm like, there's no fucking way. That would be no way. So I didn't have time to dig into it. And then I looked briefly at the Ether scan.
Apparently so.
Yeah, I looked at the Ether scan, and I saw where that apparently the guy that dumped, he did end up with some Hex. So if anything, it makes me like a little short-term bearish, because if it is a hack, is that all going to get dumped here shortly? And it wasn't a ton. I mean, no more than we've endured the last few weeks, but it was, you know, it's either going to be like a windfall with the Hex per T-share payout, or it could potentially be a short-term dump because somebody got fucked.
I think
I heard about that.
Go on.
I want to look into that a little more, because I heard about that too. Jesus Christ, 39 hex per T-share last I
Yeah,
saw.
I'm like, there's.
I
like,
need to
that
look
can't be
into
right.
this, because I didn't
Yeah,
confirm
yeah.
that before, but I've heard that.
But
From
I guess some people have been speculating about it. It's actually already in my Google Sheets. I was looking for a spreadsheet, but I've got it in Google Sheets. So let me find that real fast. And I'll drop a link in the private chat for you, Seven, and I'll drop it in the public chat as well.
Thank you.
So people can play around with it. And it's like, and the thing to remember is like, you know, you can go into the second tab, which is the predictive element, and you can play around with what you think the price, or I'm sorry, yeah, you can play around with the predictive element that tells you what the T-share per, or the Hex per T-share per day rate will be over time. So you can tweak that. And if you, there's a really great app you can play with now too. And we had talked about webifying this particular spreadsheet a long time ago. And, you know, Bree's busy with 50 million different things. I'm busy. Juan's, you know, got, you know, familial obligations and work and, you know, just life. And we just didn't quite get around to it. And we had pitched it to a couple of different developers, and then they were busy. And then as time has gone by, it's like there's kind of sort of versions of it online. And one is called, I think it's Stake Hex Today. Is that what it is, Bran? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there's stakehex.today. Or like stake. Yeah, there's that one, and then there's like a hexcalc.net. I know that's another one.
Gotcha.
That predictive stuff.
Yeah, the Stake Hex Today one in particular is really cool because there's sliders at the top, so you can adjust the stuff that I'm talking about on there just with a slider of like, you know, what you think the price is going to be over time, and so forth. So let's see here, share.
You can see whether you're going to be buying a place in the Hamptons or getting a caravan.
Right, exactly. So let's see.
That sounds brilliant.
Copy. All right.
When
All
you
right,
can tell your boss
Boss
you're not coming back in tomorrow.
No doubt. It's like, and then that really is the challenge of, I think, your character is, are you really nice about it like Bran was and write him a letter and work out your notice, or do you tell them to go fuck themselves?
Oh, yeah. That's true. Well, dude, I had people say the same thing, like, "What, dude? Why didn't you just do this and that?" And it's like, well, first off, that's not my personality, and secondly, like, I didn't feel that way. You know, like, you must really hate yourself if that's what you want to say on your last day. Like, you should have quit a long time ago if it really got to that. But
yeah,
that's funny.
So
I dropped it in the private chat. If you want to try to open it up, you can kind of be looking at it while I'm talking about it. Seven.
I don't want to burn my bridges with McDonald's either.
Yeah, right. No doubt. It's like, and the free shift meals. I mean, you can't really beat that. You know, it's like loading up on chicken nuggies every day. It's,
are you full-time crypto now, by the way?
Not quite. I'm getting close. I help run my family's business, and we're kind of going into a transition phase here where I will be less involved with that. So I'll be not quite retired, but effectively, you know, hopefully in the next 6 months. And
you definitely won't be able to tell them to stuff their job. Then you'll be
not when it's your mom and dad that are the bosses. Technically, it's like, and I mean, they're in their 80s now, so I mean, my sister and I are pretty much running the show, but still, it's, you know, that's. But if I was working for anyone else at this point, I would not be. I've gotten to a level where I could be comfortable without it, which is amazingly liberating.
I had my own business which failed in the pandemic in December last year, and that was just fine because at that point I was okay to stop working. So that's been very, awesome. very, very opportune, very timely.
Well, I was going to ask because it said you said you were full-time crypto, so I wasn't sure how long you had been full-time crypto.
Yeah, since December.
Cool. So that's got to be a crazy change of life, right? I mean, just how you navigate your day, and I imagine it's not all roses. It's probably a little jarring.
Yeah, it is full time. I don't have a social life. I certainly wouldn't go on holidays or anything like that. And that's been one of the blessings of this channel. Actually, it's been able to connect to other people who are similarly immersed, and and just allowing people who have day jobs or have lives to be able to just get summaries of information from me. I try to make sure my videos are content filled, and and people come away with some useful information, and I try to be unique. So in the videos that I've done on Pulse, I've always tried to bring a different angle, which people tell me I've managed to achieve quite well so far.
Oh yeah, totally. It looks like Toby might have accidentally dropped out. I think he might have been sharing the link when that accidentally dropped out. So he should be back in a second. We gotta, let me just say what's up to the chat real quick. One guy's like, do they even read the chat? And it's like, well, hey, there's 200 people watching, and not every time can you get to the comment section when you're having a conversation with other people. Sometimes people should just be grateful that it's happening. There's Toby again. But yeah, Toby, I did have it on the
sorry about that. I obviously clicked the wrong button. Oh, awesome. Good deal, guys. So let's look at this, and I can kind of walk you through it a little bit.
Great.
I didn't really intend to talk about this today, but it seems fitting, especially if Crypto 7, I'm sure he's representative of a lot of people that, maybe got in on this last run up and are a little concerned. And this is super conservative, mind you. It's like if you have older stakes, then it would behoove you to go use this and look at what your T shares are like.
So you're going to be bringing a lot of people some good news now, I think.
It's kind of bonkers. It is kind of bonkers as far as, what it could be. So let me get over to my own version of it so I can see it better. All right, here we go. So basically, you see in the very top left, you've got the Hex logo.
Yep.
And then just to the right in yellow, you can see the current price and then the date. Those will pull automatically for you. Basically, the way that I do any of my spreadsheets is the white cells are where you can put in values, and anything that's in color is formulaic. So the idea would be to go to this Google Sheet, make yourself a copy, because this is a view only. So if you make yourself a copy to manipulate, then you can do that. You won't be able to manipulate the one that you're looking at. So in this example, what I did was like, okay, if you had 10 grand and you bought a few days ago, and you got in at 22 cents when we had that little run up, and you took that 10 grand and bought in at 22 cents, you ended up with about 30,000 hex. Where's my total here? Hang on.
Well, 10 grand's good because you can just, if somebody's done 50 grand, you can just do the calculation in your head, can't you?
Right. So let's see here. So 10 grand is like not crazy, but I mean, you can adjust down accordingly. So basically at 22 cents, you would end up with about 45,000 hex, right? So what I did in this example is I took that 45,000 hex and I put it into equal stakes of 3,000 hex over the course of 15 years. So if you can see there down below where the pricing and stuff is and where that $10,000 mark is, then effectively what you're going to see is, if I can get back to it here. Here we go. Yeah, this is way easier to do not online. Okay, so if you look at the very first row, the number one stake, do you guys see that, Bran?
Yep.
Okay, so that first stake, you can see the cost basis of all the stakes is $667 because we took that 10 grand and divided it up under 15 stakes, right? Okay, so the start date of the first one I have is 11/18, and we've got that going out for 1 year. So just hair over your 366 days for the stake length. So if you keep marching over to the right, then what you'll see is the principal, which is 3,000 hex. And at that point, a 1 year stake would get you 0.184 T shares, which for those that don't know, T stands for trillion. So 0.18 sounds like a small amount, but it's trillion shares. So it's a chunk.
Yeah.
If you continue to march to the right, you can see what it's.
I didn't know that. I've heard the T-share reference loads of times. I didn't know that was trillion. There you go.
Yep. Or tera shares or tetra shares, I think. But I mean, effectively, it's trillion. So if I'm wrong, please someone correct me. But it's like it's more than a billion. I'll tell you that because I know they're talking about B shares being the next step down. So I'm fairly confident it's a trillion. So if you keep marching to the right, you can see the average daily interest. So it's approximately 15% at 1 year stake. Based on our model, the interest that you would earn in that 1 year would be about 421 hex on your 3,000 principal, correct? Everybody with me so far?
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm
that
following.
sounds
We
nice
can
to me.
see
Alright.
like
then
a
as you
green
go-
box as you go over it.
Oh, is it moving? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't know
Right,
how that's
excellent.
happening, but and I'm
That's
pointing with
me.
the
I'm
mouse
in.
too.
I'm in the sheet, and it looks like we got about 6
Oh.
people that are viewing it right now too. So that's cool.
Okay,
So as
cool.
I go on across here, the end stake price prediction. That is the very conservative estimator that we've come up with that puts us at around 31 cents in a year. Okay, which we all think we're going to be fairly higher than that, right? So at
Right.
31 cents, if you go over a few more spells there, the I think it's column S where I'm highlighted now, your $667 would now be worth $1,074 if we're at 31 cents in a year. So you've almost doubled your money in a year from if we're at 31 cents if you're staked, right? So that right there is a pretty good indication of how powerful this is. But then we can play with the moon math number, which is this right here, price prediction based on. And that's where you can punch in your own number. So I just put in $1 there just to be like, okay, well, what if we're at $1 a year? What's that make that stake worth?
When's that by? When's that by? The dollar by when?
Within a year, or basically when you put in the dollar and that price prediction based on, it's a white box where it's got the $1 I've got typed in there. I think it's column P. I think it says price prediction based on. It's like my screen is
That's
like,
I mean, that's still pretty conservative, I think.
very conservative, right? But that's the whole point. Is like I don't want to go like crazy moon math and be like, yeah, you put in $600 and now it's worth 100 grand, which it could be. You know, that's not outside the realm of possibility. But I think it's better to tell people conservatively, like numbers that are feasibly attainable, like from what we've seen of late. So I don't think anybody would say it was crazy to guess that Hex might be $1 in a year, right?
No, that's
So
great. So what does it look like at $1?
At $1, then basically that $667 stake would be worth $3,421.
Wow.
So you've effectively 5x'd your money because of the power of T-shares and the appreciation, where we're getting,
Did you say 5x
and you're getting the price appreciation, right?
Yeah. I love it.
So that's where it puts you there, right? Okay,
I've got to go stake.
Yeah, right. So that gives you an idea of how that all works together. So basically, yeah, you got your 3,000 Hex plus your 421 principal, multiply it by $1, 34.21 is how much you got. Now, let's go down just a bit. Now, this is what was really interesting to me about Bree's sheet that showed me how much of a difference longer makes. Okay, because you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to potentially make that much in a year. What if I did this for 2 years? So you're staking the exact same dollar amount, right? The same principal, $667 worth at a cost basis of 22 cents, 3,000 Hex would yield you a few days ago 0.215 T-shares if you staked it for 2 years. Going across, that should net you about 1,000 Hex, which is an effective daily interest of, I think, 30% or something. Then if you go across, this conservative estimate would be putting us at 42 cents, which I think we all can agree we should be well above that. So at the conservative estimate on that particular predictive line, that $667 would be $1,688. So nearly a 3x. So now we're looking at just under a 2x to just under a 3x to go from 1 year to a 2 year stake. Now let's get fancy here for a second and let's go down to like the 5 year stake. So now you would think, I'm just kind of climbing up an X at a time, like per year, right? If we're going to look at this, so we're going to go out to the line 13, lucky 13, and that would be the stake that would be ending on 11/18/26. If you go across, and we're up to 11 people following along on the sheet, so that's cool. 3,000 Hex in principal. T-shares a few days ago, you would have gotten 0.307 on that. That would yield you about 4,357 Hex with our predictive model. The very conservative estimate is about 73.66 cents per Hex. Say that 5 times fast. And that would put the conservative estimate on that $667 stake at $5,400 in 5 years. So now we've gone from a 1x, a 2x, now we're up to almost a 10x. So you're getting kind of an exponential return over time, it seems, right? Because of that simulated compounding interest effect of T-shares. Now, if we say, okay, well, let's say we're only at $1 in 5 years. Well, that stake is worth $7,357. So you're at about a 12x in 5 years. pretty good return. So now if we really want to kind of go full Monty, let's go down to 10 years. And if everybody's still with me, hopefully.
Yeah.
Then if we go to the 10-year stake, that's going to be the one that is line number 18, ending on 11/17 of 2031. It's going to yield you about 0.461 T shares. And as most people that have been in this for a while understand that your bigger pays better bonus and your longer pays better bonus maxes out at 10 years. So you might, and I'll cover that in a second, but you might think, well, what's the purpose of going any longer than 10 years? I'm going to show you. So we're at 10, which is your maximum you're going to get as far as T shares, right? 10 years. That's going to take you across. Now, your principal, remember, was only 3,000 hex, which cost you $667 in this example.
Yeah.
Your interest alone will be 21,800 hex. Once again, based on our predictive model, but we think it's very conservative. So now you've got 21,000 hex. We go across, and with our very conservative predictive model, we're saying in 10 years, let's imagine hex is only worth $1.26.
Jeez.
At that, your $667 investment will be $31,000. And you can see with my predictive model now, we're guessing it's 1.265 cents. And the number we were playing with before was $1. So let's say it doesn't even get to $1.26, it only goes to $1. It's 24 grand. What do you guys think it'll be at in 10 years?
Well, yeah,
that's incredible.
Okay, so let's be conservative. Let's say hex is only at $10 in 10 years.
Yeah.
So now playing with that number, what we're looking at there, if I'm on the right line.
And that's the lowest. That's the lowest I could envisage.
I can't imagine it's not being at $10 in 10 years. I mean, that's
in that what I think is it's either something would have to, the wheels would all have to fall off for it not to be $10.
Right, something catastrophic with worldwide regulation, and like, just not to go too far down that rabbit hole. But here's the question I always throw back at people when they get concerned about regulation: crypto's global. Tell me one thing. Geneva Convention, Paris Climate Accord, anything where every nation on earth has agreed how to handle something. None. It's never happened. You can't get a consensus. If you get 10 people in the room, you'll get 10 different opinions, right? So what's the likelihood that crypto would be shut down globally? Give me a break.
Right.
Crypto is the future, period, right? Full stop. So let's say, just playing along here, we're almost to the bottom of the sheet. Let's say in 10 years, we're at $10. Now, that $667 stake that you put in 10 years ago is $248,000. And this is not moon math. This is $10 in 10 years.
Yeah, conservative.
And putting in $667 today. Well, 4 days ago, right? So now if we continue on down to the bottom, you might say, okay, well, 10 years is kind of the max. Why bother doing it? And I'm 50. So even I was kind of like, why do anything more than 10 years? I'll be 60 fucking years old. It's like, I don't want to, I want to enjoy some of this shit before I'm like, being pushed around in like a freaking wheelchair or something. So here's the kicker. All right. Because you're retaining that share rate and you're continuing to earn that simulated compounding interest, you go from 10 year to year 11. Now you've gone up another 50 grand. So you've gone from 248,000. This is still saying $10. Now you've gone from 248,000 to 300,000 just for waiting one more year. Now from year 11 to year 12, you've gone from 300 grand to 380 grand. So now you made an extra 80 grand by just leaving it the fuck alone and doing it one more year. By the next year, you're going from year what did we say? 10, 11, 12. From year 12 to 13, now you've gone up another $100,000. And this is with the price staying flat. The price tops at $10 and never changes.
This is an amazing tool, and I'm sure a lot of
it is an amazing tool. And this is effectively what made me dump my entire bag finally right before big payday. I dumped all of my other crypto before big payday, and it's the best decision I ever made in my life. So we're almost to the bottom here. So now let's just go ahead and go all the way to the bottom. 15-year stake. You do a 15-year stake, $667. If we're only at $10 in 15 years, that stake is $775,000.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, that's all based on this payout simulation tab, which has to do with like, I don't even know if I'll be able to pull it up here. Yeah, so these curves that you see, this is what we're estimating the Hex per T-share per day payouts will be over time. So, I mean, this could very well change. And if you go to StakeHex today or stakehex.today, you can play with their curve, because you might think, well, in 10 years, are we really going to be getting 30 Hex per day or whatever, or 30 Hex per T-share per day? Maybe, maybe not, so you can play with that and make it more conservative. On this one, it's not as easy to manipulate, but on that website, you can play around with basically the same kind of stuff, which is really cool. So whoever made that spreadsheet or that website, props to you. But for someone that wants like a more hands-on and they want to look at the formulas behind the scenes, the spreadsheets are great. So if you have a modicum amount of knowledge with a spreadsheet, if you click through any of these links and look at the formulas, they're pretty rudimentary. I got rid of all the ones that Bree had in there that were just kind of, face melting. The only ones that are really kind of like, how they come up with that is the price prediction, and it's literally just a formula to kind of loosely estimate what we think the price will be, year over year. And it's a guess. And actually prior to this huge run up from like 7 cents up to like 56 cents, it was scarily accurate. And then we blew past it. We were well beyond it. Like, I mean, it was saying, by that point, we should have only been at like maybe 10 cents or something. And then all of a sudden, we're 5 times that. So that's when it kind of blew our model up, but it blew it up in a good direction. We were still conservative, which is what we wanted. We didn't want to promise people the moon and then they'd be like, well, what the fuck, man? It's like, I read this spreadsheet and it looked like I was going to make all this money, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what's really great is to under promise and over deliver, right? So effectively, that's kind of what that does. But, sorry to just go on a freaking hour-and-a-half tirade, I felt like, but I hopefully that's of use to everyone.
That's great. Am I right in saying that the more people that the proportion of people that stake does actually have an impact on the returns from staking?
Yes, and that's a really good point for people that are maybe not as savvy. And this is something to kind of branch off just ever so briefly, because I feel like there's been enough energy spent on like the drama in the community and all that crap. All the OGs get caught up in it. I've been caught up in it in the past. It's easy to get really just, triggered by some nonsense you see online and you feel like you got to speak truth to the bullshit. And then before you know it, you're just feeding the drama, right? Well, what's happening is we have all these new people that are coming in. And like when we were coming along, there was not a whole lot of drama. It was a lot of like just nerds crunching numbers, trying to figure out the best way to figure this shit out, right? And then as time went on and the community got bigger and bigger, and the OGs, including myself, that have gone on stream or on Twitter and talked ad nauseum about like the mechanics of it all, it gets a little boring, to be frank. It's like, okay, how many different ways can you talk about the most perfect product in crypto, right? The mostly truly, like ideal version of what crypto is supposed to be, right? How many times can you explain it? So you get entertained by the next shiny thing, and the shiny thing for us isn't necessarily another crypto, but might be some bullshit drama that's going on within the community, or somebody's running their mouth about something that's totally crypto, not even related. And then all of a sudden you still have this influx of new people coming in, and they're looking for these basic rudimentary, and I mean, not to downplay it, I mean, it's complicated, but it's the nuts and bolts of like how this shit all works together, right? And they're looking for that, and it's out there. I mean, Hodlog, Crypto Coffee, there's a ton of them out there that have really, really good step-by-step instructions of like how to set up a MetaMask, what is a T-share, but still that stuff's maybe a year old, and people might not be finding it easily, or if they do, maybe some things have changed and it's a little outdated. The basics are all still there, but as far as like the functionality of like how to do X, Y, and Z, like, we might still be talking about ethhex.com, which was a front end for Uniswap version 1 or 2 back in the day, on one of those old videos. So someone's like, what, ethhex.com? And it's still there, but it's like, but now we've evolved where it's like, it's matcha, or it's, doing your purchases through Dharma Wallet or other ways, right? So I think some of that could stand for an update. And if anyone knows my timeline with like getting stuff rolled out, like the Hexagon music video took like a fucking year, and it took forever. And I was just getting roasted relentlessly because it was getting delayed all the time. And, ultimately I think we put out a really fun thing, but
yeah, it's really good.
but around, thank you. But around that same time, I had come up with an idea, and I thought the name was catchy, which was Hex 101 with Toby One. And and the guy that actually helped me produce the Hexaco music video does distance learning for a local university. So he does like classes, right? Like online class video production. So he and I are still, you know, kicking around the idea of just like coming up with a syllabus and then having it be, you know, literally like a course, right? And like just step 1, step 2, step 3, and then explain bits and pieces as we go through the process. And then, you know, be able to go back and update things if things have changed, and then have like a centralized place kind of sort of for people to go where it's all in a row. Like here's the course, follow this, it's free, online, get your learn on. Okay, so with that being said, back to your question about you know, the amount of people that are staking affecting things. Here's the cool part, and Richard's way of explaining it is the best of all, of course. But effectively, if right now and you understand that the payouts that we're getting in Hex, that payout is not necessarily interest, it's technically inflation, right? So Hex, the total supply is inflating by 3.69% a year. So that's 3.69% of the total supply. But it only gets paid out to stakers. Yeah. So if only 10% of people are staked, then that's how that 3.69% becomes 36.9% APY. Right. Okay. So obviously, all that is based on it being 10%. Well, what happens if that 10% goes to 20%? Well, now you're not getting 36 or 38 APY, right? Now you're getting maybe 19 APY. So the APY does drop down the more people that stake. And I think over time that'll probably occur because more people will kind of see the benefit of staking.
Can I jump in there? But the beauty is, the beauty is the more people that you want to see your APY go down, because the more people that stake, you know, the safer your APY is. Because, you know, if you could offer anyone a guaranteed 15% APY and no risk, everyone would take your arm off. Right. So in a sense, it's not, you know, it's so healthy to see that proportion of people staking. Yes. Like I'm going to stake after this conversation, you know. Yeah. And no, I love it. Sorry, I just thought I'd jump in there with my.
That's great. That's great. That's a great point. And I'm honestly, I'm really glad that you stated that, because I was going to leap over to like the cherry on top. But like the basis of that is perfect. Like, yeah, it's like if someone could tell you, you know, 40% APY, they might be a little skeptical, but then you're like, hey, there's this much of it locked up for this long, and the rest is EOA. So, you know, nothing's happening with that. And then that's a separate conversation, but that can be explained and talked about as how that's a benefit to the system. But it gives people a little more security. Like, okay, 15% is more reasonable, doesn't feel like moon math to them. And they can see like, okay, that's a good return on anywhere. If you could get pretty much guaranteed 15% forever, that's great. And then if you go further into the discussion of, okay, like, well, this hedges you to the downside and it amplifies your gain to the upside. So the price keeps going up. Now you have that much more per year that is appreciating alongside your principal. That's all great. Now here's the cherry on top. All right. This is what a lot of people miss, is this secondary element. There's only so much Hex, right? There's not a fixed supply. I mean, it's gradually growing and it's being distributed amongst stakers, which is locked over time. So it's not like Bitcoin where it's immediately being dumped on the market to pay for the energy cost, right? It's locked up in time, so that dilutes how quickly that comes back into the liquid supply. So here's the thing that is so brilliant about the whole thing. If there's more that's staked up, that means there's less liquid. Yeah. So if there's less liquid and demand is going up, but you've reduced liquid supply because more people are staked, what's the price going to do?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say more staking is a byproduct of more people coming in, which must mean more price as well, wasn't it? It's just like an indicator that indicator that things are healthy, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I just saw a comment. Somebody was saying, "You've done such a good job of convincing him." By the way, he's going to stake now. I feel thanks ever so much, because I feel like, I'm sure there'll be other people watching feeling the same. I really understand Hex now, and I really can get excited about Hex in a way that, I was excited enough to put significant money in, but now I'm really excited. I really get it now. It's so clever. This is the first time it's just light bulb. I
Yeah,
really
this is
understand
great.
it now. You explained it
Yeah.
beautifully. Thank you ever so much.
Yeah, that was
You're welcome.
super nice, dude.
Yeah, I love it because it's
Well,
like
isn't it?
I've seen that face on so many of my friends when I go through the same conversation. And that's part of why I was thinking like I need to do the Hex 101 thing, because it's like I've said this so many times. And then it's like I'll go on Discord Syndicate, or I'll go on Maddie's stream or whoever. And then I may or may not touch on some of this stuff, but it's like you're with a group of people, and sometimes people in the chat are like, "Shut up, Toby One." It's like we heard you drone on long enough, and then you're catching heat, and then my soulmate Ross Hex will pop up in the chat. It's like I think like that you've made it if you've got like people that imitate you. So like I had a fake Telegram at one point. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. And then at the same time, I'm like, wait a minute, that means I'm getting it's like more people know who I am. So it's like I figured out how to prevent that from being an issue going forward, like by changing my name to like I will never contact you type of deal. And then the other part is if you get haters, right? If you get haters, it's usually a good thing. But to be fair, Ross isn't a hater. Ross is just super fucking funny, and he loves to troll people, and he's really great at it. And I mean, in a lot of circles, Ross is more well known than I am. So it's like he's great. I don't want to pull the curtain back and make it think like the fight between him and I is over. But it's like he cracks me up, dude. He's got under my skin. He's got under my skin before. I'm not gonna lie, but he's good shit. But anyhow, like on those other streams, I just it's like Toby's leaning on the mic and he's talking too much, and we want to bullshit about this or that. And it's because I'm in there with a bunch of other OGs that know all this stuff, so they don't want to hear this because they know it already. But my thing is there's so many other people that might be watching, and they're like, they get 3 little pieces of information that are useful in an hour-and-a-half stream. They're going to turn it off. They got a life. They got other stuff to do. They want smaller, more digestible bites. And if they go find Hodl Dog or Coffee or some of the other streams out there that are like laid out step by step, then that's great. But if they're hungry for like more in-depth stuff that they don't necessarily get on some of those other streams, or they've just not found it yet elsewhere, and they're going to like a BallietBran stream or wherever, I think we're capturing that audience more because it's like you're like, wow, this is great.
Toby, it's so funny you should be saying that, because we started the conversation just before you could join because of the family crisis. We were saying that, I've been researching Hex and watching all the videos, and some of them I sit down and think, okay, apparently I'm going to hear about Hex and Pulse in this video. And it's just guys talking, and they've not even mentioned Hex, and they get to the end of the video, and that's an hour of my life gone, And I'm doing 70, 80-hour weeks researching crypto, and I haven't got time to watch all the videos. So, but like you rightly say, there are OGs who know it all inside out. They just want to talk to their friends while they wait in God's waiting room for the price of Hex to continue going up. And that's fine too, but.
Yeah. Well, just quick, for Toby to explain something else, because I know you mentioned that it is a kind of second part to the staking, but can you explain the question on, the question, I like the way you articulate things, but so why do we only have 10% staked as far as that, 36.6 or whatever the APY is on average? Can you explain a little bit why that is? Gosh,
why is it only 10%? I think, there's a number of things. It's like there's a lot of speculation on approximately how much of the total supply is held by the OA. Some people have speculated up to 90%, which makes no sense at all. Because if we're 10% staked and the OA holds 90%, then who's trading? How is there any liquid available to do anything with? Like 90 and 100, last I checked, is 100%. So the OA
we know I'm not staked. We know I'm not staked.
Right, right. And I've actually got a small.
So it doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yep. And I got a small bag that's not staked, and it's like and my thing is like where I want to put that in my staking ladder is about a year and a half out. And from my previous advice, like I don't want to put a small amount less than 2 years out, because if the ETH fees aren't handled, then when I try to end state that on the Ethereum network, I'm fucked, right? So I'm waiting until I have more fiat to put in, which I'm waiting on some more fiat to continue to buy, which I'm just crazy about dumping every penny I can get into more Hex. And then once that little liquid pile gets bigger, then I'm going to put that out for my year and a half gap. I got a gap about 18 months out the way in my ladder, and then that's where that's going to get plunked down, right? And that's the thing too, just to clarify, because I'm telling everyone not to stake any shorter than 2 years. If it's a big enough stake, it probably doesn't really matter that much. You know what I mean? Because it's like if that stake's going to be worth $100 grand, you're not going to be too bent if it's going to cost you $500 to unstake it, right? You know, but if that stake's only worth $1,500 and it's going to cost you $500 to unstake it, that sucks. You know, so most people are, you know, I try to speak more to the people that don't have gigantic bags to play around with, or they're trying to segment things out in smaller buckets, right? So, because I think that's the majority of the investor out there, right? It's like, we're going to have our whales and we're going to have our big guys, and you know, they've figured this shit out enough. But back to Bran's question about the 10%, I think that is just kind of a number that is coalesced around the number of people that get it, is the best way I could understand it. Is like, why are we at 10%? Why does that not really fluctuate much? And I think that's kind of like the OG core that, or not even necessarily OGs, maybe even new people that have figured it out. I had one of my onboards, freaking brilliant. She figured this shit out in like under a month. I mean, it was like maybe 2-3 weeks. She was already like understood T-shares. She got it all. I'm like, what? I'm like, how did you? I'm like, I'm a good teacher, but holy moly, man. It's like, she nailed it. And, you know, so it doesn't have to be an OG. It could be a brand new person that just somehow it works for them and they understand it all together. And they're like, bang, like the light bulb moment. Yes, I need to be staked right now. What am I doing with this liquid bag? This is silly. So, so I think it's just a representation of the number of people that understand the power of T-shares. The other part is there's people playing, especially with bigger bags. You see it a lot more now because the people that were doing it with smaller bags have gotten weeded out because of the gas cost. But you'll see these rolling stakes, right? So maybe they have $50,000, $100,000 worth of Hex, maybe $1 million worth of Hex. I don't know. Some of them are pretty big chunks where they'll just do them for like a 30-day stake. Well, in that 30 days, like if you stake, I don't know, 10 million Hex and you stake it for 30 days, the T-shares, I played around with this the other day, but I think it works out to something like you would make at the current prices around $70,000. So for them, it's like, hey, I got 10 million Hex sitting here liquid. I'm going to stake it for 30 days. I'm going to scrape that $70,000 worth of interest off, and I still got my principal. And then I can stake it again and just keep doing the same thing. And then if the price is running up, then I have liquid available and lots of it to actually sell into the pump, right? So it's kind of not quite the trader mentality, but of a more short-term logic mentality where they're trying to take gains. They want to figure out, how do I extract fiat value out of this during these volatile periods? So they've got a bag that they're rolling and playing with. Now I think
like this. Like
there you
10
go.
million, 30 days. Sell like 17,000.
Yeah, perfect. Right. What is the site?
That was the hexcalc.net.
Oh, okay, cool. I haven't played around with that one.
Dude, there's so many, and it's like you mentioned, just as you were saying though, but with the onboard, like we didn't have these tools at the beginning, and a lot of it is just so much easier to understand. Thankfully, to these kinds of tools. Yep.
And I mean, once again, it's like I can't thank Bree enough, because it's like, you know, we had some of the best tools relatively early on, and not everybody was aware of that, you know, or aware of that level of detail, and a tool to help you understand it to that level. So we got, thanks to her, kind of got a little bit of a cheat sheet on how to figure this stuff out early. And then, I mean, if I could chart like what my level of entry was over time, and then once I found that chart, like how much more money I was putting in and how quickly, it was like, it just like, holy shit. I'm like, I need to, and what was so dumb is, like, looking back, I held on to that bag of Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Chainlink, because I was doing relatively well trading it. Even in the bear market, I was clawing my way back, and I felt like I kind of understood pattern trading well enough to, like, I was winning way more than I was losing. And I was almost, and there was like almost an ego part of it. Like, I want to get it back from who took it from me, right? It's like, even though I kind of knew along the way, like, this makes sense to put it in Hex now, I just kept grinding because I wanted to at least break even, right? And I didn't quite get there. It was a little 14 grand, Charlie Lee, coming for you. But I didn't quite get there. But, you know, taking that and then ultimately putting that and staking it. And then if you look at the charts, like, of the bear market, and then when the broader markets went bull, I have a chart somewhere on TradingView. I'll have to share it sometime. But I literally have an arrow, green arrow pointing up. It's like right around the first week of November, I think. And I'd made this chart and I'd adjusted some of these trend lines way back from like maybe July of the previous year or something. And I had an arrow and in big green letters with a question mark, I'm like, begin bull run. And no shit, man, I dumped my whole bag the end of October and get into Hex. And like a week later, we broke that line. And the next thing you know, Bitcoin takes off to its, first new all-time high run in 4 years, which was 65K, right? And I kept a separate portfolio. It was like, am I a moron? Because like, this is what my Bitcoin bag and the rest of those would be worth right now if I kept them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for a while, because big payday
Hex wasn't doing very much then, was it?
No. Well, we had a little run up right before big payday, and then boom, we had the big drop, like an 80+% drop, right after big payday. So for a minute there, I'm like, what have I done? What have I done? And which is probably very much how people feel that buy tops.
Where I am at the moment, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm fine with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't, Charlie Lee doesn't owe me any money, but I just think, God, if I think I'm still up, but I think, God, if I had that money in Cardano instead,
right
when it was 2 cents,
Oh yeah,
so that would have been a nice 100x for me. Can I ask you, Toby and Brown Man, a question? So I hear that people say, and it looks to me like it is from my limited TA, but it looks like Hex is decorrelated from Bitcoin, and it's not following this. It's not following this cycle that we're following. Because when you talk about 10 years, I think, well, I'll be 60 then as well. But when you talk about 10 years, I think that's pretty much as long as crypto's been around. That's a very long time, and I find it hard to even imagine what a crypto would be priced at in 10 years. And it almost seems enough time for there to be potential issues or other better things. And
think about where Bitcoin was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like what price was Bitcoin at that point? And then it went on to do what is it, Brandon? Is it 6.5 million or 65
well,
million?
now it's more. It's like 6.9 million because I think it hit like 69,000 maybe, but from a penny. But the thing is like Toby mentioned,
it was below a penny.
It used to be sub penny. So it's like, holy moly, like I can only imagine just absolute insane.
So, and that's the thing is like the cream's going to rise to the top. It's like, and I understand you're if you're doing crypto full time, Crypto 7, it's like, you get it. You've been around long enough to see how it waxes and wanes. And if you look at the top 10 list, just year over year, like how many of them have come and gone that are just poof, no more. They were around 3 years ago. They're just gone.
Yeah, that's why I sort of.
Right. So I understand the nerves that can come along with that. But I think that's what's interesting is the strength of the Hex community is bar none. Richard Hart with his progress forward, where it's not and what's great is Hex is a finished product. We're not a promise coin that somewhere along the way we're going to fall short on the promise, and then people are going to lose faith because they promised this and promised that and it never happened. Lightning Network never happened. Nimblewimble never happened. Whatever. And
I was just interested in your opinion as an expert, really, on what whether or not. Well, there's this almost this collision of narratives at the moment, isn't there? When we're getting back to the overall crypto cycle and what that might mean for Hex, there's this popular belief pushed out by people like BitBoy, who's got the biggest channel, saying we're going to the moon by December, and then it'll all be all she wrote. Alts will go crazy for a couple of weeks after, and it's all going to be over. And that suits the impatient, the goldfish who want instant gratification, and that's ideal for people like that. And then you've got this other school of thought which seems to be winning out, that people like Data Dash and Benjamin Cohen push out, that you've got these elongated cycles, and the data seems to support elongated cycles. Whether you look at it from the tops or the bottoms or the halvings, the cycles are lengthening, and due to increased participants, we're getting diminishing returns. So it looks like we're going to get a bull market which is going to run well into 2022, ultimately higher, but we might do nothing over the next 2 to 3 months. And I'm just wondering how that might impact Hex and indeed Pulse, whether or not how that might, because one of the things, Richard's fantastic. I'm a huge fan. One of the things I think guys that get most things right like the idea they get everything right, and I think that Richard, he likes to say that he called the top on 64K. He then said we're not going to get back to 64K. It's a dead cat bounce. He said a couple of months ago, if either Bitcoin gets to 64K or Ethereum gets to its prior all-time high, then my belief that it's a dead cat bounce is invalidated. We exceeded both of those, but now because we've dipped back again, he's saying, well, it pretty much didn't, and it was a dead cat. It was a double top, and we're going down. I agree with 99% of what he says. I don't believe he's right on this, and he's a genius guy, but there are genius TA people who've got other beliefs on that, and the on-chain metrics bear out a different story. So, you know, and I think it's healthy to not necessarily agree with everything that Richard says.
Certainly, right.
He's not always been right on this. So, I think that.
Well, you've got 3 points so far that I caught. So if you can hang on a second there, if I'm not throwing off your train of thought too badly, because I'll forget, and then I won't address 2 of the 3.
Thanks. Sorry. So, and it's late here, so sorry if I waffled there.
No, you're fine. I'm the king of rambling on, and it's like I years ago, when I smoked pot and stuff, we had this idea that we were going to write a book called Tangential Tales, and it was just going to be someone was going to dictate the conversation of a room full of us, like doing bong rips and just going off on all these little tangential tales, right? Like all these stories, and like some of them would circle back and some of them never would fucking end, right? It was just hilarious. We need to, someone needs to record this and dictate it and make a book out of it. Because, you know, of course, at the time, all the little side jaunts sound genius, but, you know, then you sober up and you kind of wonder what the fuck you're talking about. but let me do it in reverse order, okay? So, you were asking about how the lengthening cycles and the diminishing returns and those kind of things are going to affect Hex and Pulse. And then the other thing was about Richard's predictions. All right. So I'll do it in reverse order. The Richard prediction thing is he's a human being. And the thing is you got to listen carefully. And it's like, I thought the same thing initially, but then it's like, I also have been around long enough to kind of understand that, you know, smart people don't make necessarily declarative statements. They will leave themselves a little bit of a side out, not necessarily by design, but just because it's honest and realistic. And, you know, he doesn't have a crystal ball. No one does. No one knows exactly what it's going to do. So, and he would always preface and end his statements, you know, somewhere in there. I mean, obviously he'd spend a fair amount of time on the stuff that gets people's attention, which is Bitcoin's going to 10,000. But the preface and the postscript on that would always be, if it follows the same patterns it has historically. Blow off top, dump, dead cat bounce, here we go bear, right? And that's kind of what he was saying. If it does the same thing it's done before. If it doesn't do the same thing it does before, he was open, and he said this on stream multiple times. I've seen him say where he's like, I'm open to a different pattern. I'm open to things being different. And then that's, you know, when it didn't end up being a dead cat bounce, but it, you know, had kind of an anemic rally from, you know, that 54,000 region on up to like a new all-time high that it kind of hung around for a minute. And I don't know where we are now. Are we back around 60 grand, 59 something, I think, when we started. So not a real awe-inspiring pump to an all-time high. It like barely beat it and then kind of limped back down, right, and kind of faded. So that's where now it looks to a lot of people like this is potentially a double top. That's different. We've had double bottoms before, but we've not had a double top, right? They're not a significant one. So it could be, you know, that this is indeed a double top, but he doesn't have a crystal ball. If it is a double top, this could be the slide back to a bearish, you know, outlook for the next cycle, whether it's a 4-year cycle or a shortening or lengthening cycle. Who knows? That could all be new too, right? You know,
can I just jump in there a sec, Toby?
Sure.
Because I did ramble off. I missed the key point I was trying to make. Was I'm not trying to debate him on whether or not it is or isn't, because that was, you say no one's got the crystal ball. What's starting to get my attention is that he seems almost keen on it being a bear market for the wider market, and this is making me think that he's anticipating that Hex and Pulse will do a lot better, particularly Hex, if it is a wider bear market because of this decorrelation thing. And I don't know if this is correct, but something in the back of my head saying is this why? Because for me personally, I don't have a crystal ball either, but I'm with the. I don't think this is a double top at all. We went from 30 to 60 quite quickly. We then went up to 67, 68. We're now just proving that around 60 was support. This looks very healthy to me, but it's not whether I'm right or he's right. What I'm interested in is why does he seem, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, why does he seem almost keen that he almost seems keener for us to be in a bear market? Whereas I think you and we're in wider cryptos. A lot of the people that we want to attract into Hex are invested in the bigger cryptos. We talked about wanting to get the more of the billionaires in. And, you know, what we really want to see is all the boats rising. And we don't really want to see, I don't personally want to see that. I'd rather see Hex prosper. Is he concerned that Hex won't prosper as well if everything else is pumping? And is this where he's coming from on this? I don't know.
I see what you're saying there. I don't presume to speak for the man himself, but you know, my thinking would be it's more just kind of like hyper logical reasoning, that it seems that the odds are more in the favor of a downturn than an exponential moonshot for Bitcoin. And I mean, and that's kind of part of the conversation I was going to go to next, but I'll try to stay on this for a moment. You know, I think that there's more upside for Bitcoin. I think we could possibly touch 100,000. I don't know that it's going to happen before the end of the year. I think a lot of what prompted that in 2017, when you and I were getting in, was the kids came home from college. Yeah, they talked to their mom and dad and their aunts and their uncles and their cousins about all the stuff, right, that's going on in crypto and how it's a rocket ship and they're making all this money. And they're like, what the fuck? It's like, you just made your college tuition since I saw you on spring break. What's going on here? Right. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we get the big retail influx and the big boom and then the blow off top and then the dump and the dump and the dump, right, for however many years until it finally leveled out. And then we had another dump because of the COVID thing. Ta-da, right? So I think we're in a different dynamic now, right? So, and I think that's, and probably I would guess that Richard's taking that into consideration, is like, what was the impetus for that blow off top? And we don't have that this time around. There's probably less traveling than there was before, and less, you know, and probably less excitement about what Bitcoin has done over the last 6 months, because it's been largely down, right? And then it's like we finally just kind of turned itself back around, because we hit that 65 and then we dumped and dumped and dumped for how long before we finally started to get back up above that again. So I don't think the exuberance is there for the majors. For the major.
Well, it's about doubled this year, but nobody gets out of bed for doubling in crypto.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Perfectly well stated. You know, and I think more of kind of what those dinner table conversations are going to be for, you know, college kids coming home, is they're going to be talking about NFTs. They're going to be talking about all the new shiny shit. So, you know, maybe there's another, and that kind of supports the narrative of an altcoin rally happening, right? Which is typically what happens after the Bitcoin, you know, rally is kind of subsided. People make their money on Bitcoin, and then they start to look for more speculative things with some of their gains. And then that pumps your alts, right? So that's kind of what I've witnessed, is kind of a pattern that plays itself out. And I think that, you know, to once again, just kind of try to get inside the brain of the master here is, you know, if that's kind of part of what's happening, add to that the topping signals of like crypto kitties and that kind of bullshit back in 17, 18. And now what's a topping signal? $1 million JPEGs, right? That seems pretty, you know, well stated. And you look at the pending regulation that's coming in, that's FUD, right? From the US government in particular, that is likely to stifle some of that exuberance and maybe start to squash some of that push toward a whopping 2K, right? So I think if you put all that into the equation and you had to, it's not a coin toss. The odds are stacked up such that you're more likely to have a downturn, maybe not to 10K, but, you know, I think odds are that we kind of go sideways.
Yeah, no, this is brilliant, Toby. This is brilliant, Toby. I would debate that, because we had the crazy NFT prices, back a few months ago when we thought that was some people thought that was the top, and so
Right.
you know, and things do mature and all the rest, and people will waste money on things. So you know, I know people also say top signals are when all the influencers are talking about it, but of course we've moved on since then. There's a lot more penetration. But my why I wanted to get onto this, and some viewers might be thinking, "God, what's going on?" But what I was interested in was I was just interested in this.
1 second.
Why
Let me interrupt for just 1 second.
Go on.
Okay, so here's the thing: we get a lot more eyes if this is dramatic, right? So fuck you, Crypto 7. You're absolutely wrong. There's no way that you could possibly be right about a furthering of the bull market. Okay, I'm just kidding.
yeah. No, it's this. What I'm trying to get into my mind of what. Because I have my own firm beliefs on, I think this is an extended cycle. I'm firmly in that camp, but I'm not, and I understand your arguments, which are well made, very well made, by the way. But what I'm interested in is neither of those at all. What I'm interested in is what is it that Richard thinks is the interplay? In other words, what does he think? Yeah, exactly. I should have. I'm sorry, it's late here.
No.
What is it? What does he think Hex? And back to your model, what does he think Hex is going to do if Bitcoin's going to 300,000, as a lot of people think it is, in 2 or 3 months' time? You know, and what does he think? Where does he think Hex is going if Bitcoin goes to 11,000, as he thinks? Because that's a big difference, isn't it? That's a big different environment for Hex. What I'm trying to understand. Does he think that Hex is going to do better if Bitcoin poops its pants?
I think,
or does he think it's going to do work? Yeah, this is where I'm coming from.
No. I get you, and I'm sorry if I just missed it in my.
No, it's me. I was late here.
No, totally me on that. And I think the reason I kind of flipped over to kind of like the reasoning is that the other question kind of speaks more to his intent, and I don't really think that his calls are based on some sort of ulterior motive that's driven by what he thinks is going to be best for his own stuff. I just don't think that. I think that he's really being genuine in his thoughts. And plus, he's risking that track record that he has of calling things correctly. Yes. So if he's going to call something to try to persuade the market in a particular direction because he thinks it benefits him and his products, that's going to show itself pretty quickly. And then people are no longer going to pay attention to him like they have in the past, because his calls are right. Whether they were for him or against them, they were right. And, you know, he was a Bitcoin holder forever. I think he probably still has a bag of Bitcoin. And, you know, so
I'd love to ask him about that. Yeah, this is where I was going. I was playing devil's advocate, and I just wanted you guys' view on this. And
on the bull side, though, to your point, and something I kind of left out there is another kind of cycling thing that happens of money within crypto is you do have the big pump in Bitcoin and stuff, and then people start to take some of those profits, and then they go into some more speculative things. But it goes the other direction too. So when those altcoins pump, the smart people, and this is where the altcoin boom stops, they start taking profits. And what do they do with it? They put it in what they think is the best store of value, which is Bitcoin. So it goes back to Bitcoin, a lot of it, right? Or they continue to speculate and gamble and do other things. Or they take it out of crypto altogether because they just fucking made enough money to retire because they jumped from Bitcoin gains, took those, put them in NFTs, made a fuck ton of money. I'm out. Right. So there's that other, it's like a washing machine of money. Like, which way is it going now? It's going in this direction. Now it's going back in that direction. And then every time it goes in either direction, a little bit of it bleeds out to go out and do other things in the world. And then new money's coming in to like help those numbers rise again. And then we get the yin yang thing. Right. So that's kind of my thought on that. So I don't think necessarily that, you know, we're done with Bitcoin. I think it, like I said, I think it could go to 100,000. You know, before the end of the year, I think is a little hopeful personally. And a lot of times when there's so many people on one side of an argument, it's likely to go the other way.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's so many people really leaning into the idea of the long, that's when the shorts are going to make their money. Right. You know, same the other direction. Everybody's knows it's doomed. Boom, here comes the pump and the shorts are liquidated.
That's the question I'd love to ask Richard, and I don't have and I agree with you. I think that if he was a benevolent character, I think that would have shown through. And I'm a big fan, and I hope I've got that across, and I hope I haven't made the wrong impression here.
No.
I've been following Richard since. I've been fantastic in the way he's taken some people to like Craig Wright to task. I just love the guy. But I'd love to ask him this question, Richard. if Bitcoin is 350,000 in 6 months, or if Bitcoin is 11,000 in 6 months, and both of those, there's lots of people that will argue either of those two scenarios.
Sure.
What do you think those two worlds, because they're very different worlds, might mean for Hex? I'd love the answer to that. What he thinks that would mean for Hex. And maybe if you've got an idea, I'd love to know your opinion as well.
He's not here, unfortunately. How cool would it be, Bran, if Richard decided to pop on? That would be awesome. That'd be lovely. That'd make my holiday would be complete if Richard decided to come talk to us, right? And not like in a sea of OGs trying to elbow each other out of the way to get his attention. And if you guys haven't watched the old Big Payday 24-hour stream, dude, that was just, almost embarrassing, because it's like my fiance and I were watching it the other night, and they're like, oh, hey, that's where I came on. And I think I had done like a stream or two prior to that. And so I'd been on, I think, Discourse a couple times maybe. And then I popped in to be on the Big Payday stream, and Kareem was on there. God love him. But I think that was his first stream. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy.
Oh, it's all good, dude. Not at all.
We've all got them.
Oh yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I had to get somebody to corral the dogs. We have an older dog that's getting a little deaf and blind, so any little thing will spark her. But her vocal cords still work. So
you were saying that you were on the Discourse Syndicate stream.
Yeah, I've been on the Discourse Syndicate a few times, and then I hopped on for the Big Payday 24-hour stream, which was hilarious to look back at. And it's so funny because it's like Kareem, God love him, and he's so exciting. And he's like got so much passion about everything. But that was kind of my first interaction with him, really. And I had waited so long to kind of get on. And then there was like, it wasn't my scheduled time slot, but there was a little gap, and Hexo brought me on. And I'm sitting there and I'm waiting to kind of just like, because normally someone pops on and they introduce them and acknowledge them. And then you say something, say a little something, and the conversation kind of goes around the horn, right? And Kareem was on one. So I'm sitting there for like minutes. And then like, you can just see my face change. And she was like, oh my God. She was like, you look like you hate him. I'm like, no. I'm like, I love Kareem. I'm like, I'm just getting annoyed because it's like, dude, you've been talking for 4 fucking hours. I'm like, I'm here for 5 minutes. Can I say something? It's just so funny to look back. I'm like, I didn't realize my face was telling so much. And then, and I haven't gone and seen the rest of it because I typically don't like to watch myself on stream because then I get self-conscious. It's like I did a television show years ago when I was a teenager, and the same thing. It's like, I hated seeing myself on TV because it made me too self-conscious, and then I couldn't just kind of do my shtick or whatever. But anyhow, back to my ideas on the question we would love to be able to ask Richard is about his thoughts on 11K versus 350K.
Yeah.
And this is where I said earlier, I think it's all relative, right? So I think in both scenarios, we beat Bitcoin. Okay. It's to what degree? I think in a bear market scenario, people are going to be looking for safe havens.
I was just thinking about it. In both scenarios, we beat Bitcoin. So that would mean that if Bitcoin went to 350K, well, I love this, but hang on, let me just do a bit of. So 350K is a 5x on here, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
So that would mean that Hex would have to be about 125, something like that, $1.25, $1.50. Love it.
Right. And a lot of people have been calling for Hex to be, upward of $2 by the end of the year. And a lot of that, I think, is predicated upon, what happens with the announcements around PulseChain. And there could be, a squeeze there as more people start to stake because they feel like, the PulseChain's coming and they just would rather have their stuff
end of
staked
next
or whatever.
year or end of this year.
End of this year.
$2 by the end of this year.
Hexo's been calling that for like a year. He's been saying $2.01 by the end of this year. And now a lot of people backed off of that. Guardog, I think, was famously stating on Twitter that he thought we'd hit $1.37 by the end of the year. And, I think some people have backed off of some of those since then, me included, because of the downturn. But here's what you got to consider. If you look on the log scale of the history of Hex, right? And Bran, just shut me up or mute me or something if I'm going too hard on this
No.
Okay,
we're good,
right.
dude.
Yeah, I see your payoff t-shirt thing, and I definitely want to talk about that too because
I'm learning so much from you. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no worries. So, where was I? Sorry.
Yeah, about the 120. About the you were saying somebody was.
Yeah. So here's the thing: if you look at the log scale of the history of Hex and what it's done, every time that we've had a big dip, whether it's 40, 50, 60%, 85%, 87%, I think was one of the worst dips. Every time after that, the average, I believe, and Guardog, I think, has talked about this, if I'm not mistaken, is like a 6x that we do after we recover from the dip. Christ. So what's a 6x from right now? $1.20, right? And wouldn't that be interesting if that coincided with Bitcoin just going apeshit and doing a 6x of its own? I don't know. I think we're more likely to get to $1.20 by the end of the year than Bitcoin's likely to get to $3.50 by the end of the year.
What about my theory? It's like a hybrid theory. It's basically I'm going to incorporate. So that sounds great to me, and
yes.
that you would know. So, but I think nothing's going to happen until PulseChain is launched, and when the buyers go, yeah, this has not been bad for Hex. In fact, it's been great for Hex. Boom, this is a buy signal. Right. Let's go. And then what you said is latent demand. It's there waiting, and then it's going to be that plus a bit for good measure for the delay, and then it's just going to go crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, release the hounds.
Hex is going to go. Yeah, it's going to release the hounds. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of my thinking as well. That there's a lot of people just kind of in a wait and see mode, and I think that speaks to a lot of things. The drama in the community, it's boring, and it kind of sucks when you're seeing red candles. Even if you're staked, it's intuitively it just kind of hurts when you see your portfolio going down. Even if it's shit you can't touch for 10 years, like me. It's like I've got some stakes that are shorter, but most of my stuff's out there a ways, right? They're coming out more toward retirement age. And I'm looking at my portfolio, I'm like, oh, that sucks. 60% down. That's not fun, right? And you get a little grumpy and a little fidgety. And then like for me, and it's like, I hate to ever cop to this, but it's honest. And it's like, if anything, I'm honest to a fault. Yeah. I've actually done a little trading in these times, like when things are kind of shitty and sideways and boring. I get bored and I got a liquid bag. And I like to I got all my charts still. I mean, I could show you one right now. It's just silly lines everywhere, trend line galore. I just enjoy it as kind of a hobby. But, you put a little skin in the game, it makes it a little more exciting, and it kind of feeds that little degen that's still in there, right? So, I mean, there's been times that I've sold and then I'll buy back because I see that we've kind of topped out in a short formation and that we're likely to retrace a bit. And if it's not going to be eaten up by gas, then it's reasonable to do it. And it's like, and I've been able to acquire a little bit more Hex that way. So I think there's plenty of people out there with liquid bags that are doing the same. And probably like most trading, most of them are getting wrecked. It's like, because of my previous experience, not that I'm a genius or beat the odds by any means, because as I've already stated, I never even broke even on my investments from 2017, 18. I almost did 14 grand, Charlie fucking Lee. But, but I'm good enough, and I know enough about Hex in particular of how it behaves, that I've been able to make some good trades. But it's smaller amounts, and typically, I mean, as a rule, I haven't sold any Hex, haven't done any Hex flexes and sold Hex to buy other things. All of it's been reinvested. Even if it's a trade where I've lost a bit of my position, but net wise over the course of the last 2 years, it's like I've actually gained a little with some trading in these periods. So, but to your point about the upside, okay, so let's say, Bitcoin's going up. So like, what would you do? Like, if, you're in Bitcoin, obviously, would you take profits from the Bitcoin at any point as it's going on that monumental run? Or would you just
the popular belief is that most bull markets finish when Bitcoin tops out, then just sort of sits there, and then the alts go on a 2 to 4 week crazy run of another 2 to 3x on top of that. So right. I would probably sell some of my Bitcoin when it looks like we might have topped out, and the alts are aggressively going up, the Solanas and the Ethereums and the Cardanos.
So what would you do with your profits from the Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. And probably after this conversation, I think I'd probably go back into Hex. Well, this is why I got into Hex, because I think it does look decorrelated to me, and that's just such a beautiful hedge. And I think that's why investors are going to get in as well, because they get out of bed in the morning not to make a fortune, they've already got a fortune, but to protect their wealth. And if somebody says, well, look, this crypto seems to behave differently to all the others, they don't follow this crazy cycle, and they're going to go, that's great, sign me up for some of that. I think so. I think so, definitely.
Perfect. Okay.
And this,
so you made the argument. You made the argument for why Hex would likely go up during a Bitcoin bull run, right? because people are going to take some profits and they're going to look for safe havens for that, for maybe a better store of value. Take a little of their risk away because they're afraid Bitcoin's going to top and then dump. And if Bitcoin, it doesn't have staking, right? If you hold Bitcoin, if it goes down, you're down with it, right? You're not earning more Bitcoin to hold it than Hex you are. So you can either take some of those profits and speculate on the alts and help the alt bubble, or you can be, smart about it and take some of that. Maybe you want to gamble with some of it on some speculative altcoin stuff that's happening. See if you can get another 6x over there, or you can take some of that and put it into Hex, which is a little safer. And you've got the hedge to the downside for Bitcoin, and you got kind of a double hedge, because if you stake it, you're earning interest on your Hex while you're protecting it as a store of value. Right.
And what else are you going to do? Because the dollar's screwed. The dollar's screwed now. What is it? 6.2%. And that's what they're admitting to. Jesus Christ.
Right.
So if you earn 100K a year, you're going to be earning 93.8K at the end of the year, and then 80 something the year after that.
That's
brutal. Insane.
I had employees of mine in particular that were just, kind of a little grumpy about the fact. I mean, they got some of the stimulus, but we kept all our employees employed during the entire COVID thing.
Good for you.
We didn't have to lay off anybody. I actually laid myself off periodically so we could have the cash flow to keep people employed, because I just didn't want to be the first guy in the history of our family's company to be the guy that's in charge when you lay people off. It's like I just didn't want to do that to my staff, and we were able to keep them all employed. But the thing is a lot of them were kind of crabbing about buddies of theirs that were at home making more money than they were. Because they were getting this money, this free money from the government. And I said, well, that's all well and good. I said, but wait until after all this is over and they can't find a job. And now milk's $8 a gallon, or gas is $5 a gallon, which we're not far from that now already. And it's like, so, and they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, you can't print this money forever and not have inflation hit the broader markets. And it's like, and we're seeing it, construction materials, especially so much stuff. It just, we could go way off.
So the things seem to be, it's all interconnected though, isn't it?
Yes.
And this is the thing with, you do have to look at the macro picture. Otherwise none of it makes sense, because I've onboarded, I know Bran's onboarded loads of people, and I know you have. I've been quite successful onboarding people as well. And they asked me, well, should I get out completely? And I'm saying, there's a few people I've got in recently, and I'm saying, well, the speed things are going now with the inflation, with the money printing, with the adoption, and people saying such nice things about crypto all the time. I'm not sure you ever want to get out completely. It's back to the maybe you stake some at different periods and all the rest. But
you never
I still find it hard projecting out beyond about 5 years. But I don't think I'd ever sell all my crypto.
Right. Well, that was part of my reluctance to get rid of my bag of Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink, is that it had just been driven into me, and I'd experienced it firsthand of, even if you are 100% certain that things are going to go in a particular direction, you don't ever fucking sell your whole bag, ever, because the market will show you what kind of moron you are very, very quickly. And I did that a number of times where I made some snap decisions and got frickin' intermittently wrecked, like during that climb out of my hole, where I was like, holy shit, man. That's like, I was just grinding for 3 months or whatever to make 60 grand back on my portfolio. And I blew it in one fucking trade because I threw it all in one direction. And if I just held on to 20% of it, because of the way it moved, I'd have broke even. And
me too, man. I've done this.
So I get that. Sure. But for sure, I concur with that. It's like, you don't ever want to be all the way out.
I think I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell most of my conventional cryptos, because I don't want to sit through an 85% drop and have to wait 3 years. Because I'm full-time crypto now, so I need a decent amount of money to live on. And but what I'm thinking I'm going to do.
That goes to your other point, though. Is the other point was we covered what happens if Bitcoin's in a bull, and how does Hex likely respond to that. Now we go to the other direction. Now Bitcoin is topped and rolled over, and alts have done what they're doing, and now we're in looks like a free fall, right? Especially the newbies, and they're like, oh, shit. And maybe Bitcoin's going to do something different this time, or it's going to go ahead and do the 85% drawdown. So if it does an 85% drawdown from 350K, what's 15? Well, this is funny. What's 15% of 350K? About where we are now.
Just a bit less.
58,000, right? If I'm math in my head really quick, 52,000. So right. So if we go all the way to 350K and we do like, you know, the classic 85% dump, then we're back to 50K. You know, obviously you don't want to ride that all the way down. New people are going to think the sky's falling. It's the end of the world. We've seen it, so we're going to be a little more steady.
And what they're going to do.
However, people that are seeing that decline, especially people that know, they're gonna see the writing on the wall, and they're gonna be like, I need to take some of that risk off the table, and where do I put it?
Yeah, Hex.
So both scenarios,
and even less, right? They're just going to look at what's dropping least, which is going to be Hex, and they're going to all pile in, and that's when Hex is going to do much better. I'm not going to sell my Hex now after this.
Right, and you put your Hex on top of it, right?
Yeah, I'm not.
So you're staking on top of it. So then you're getting yield during this downturn and everything else. And if a lot of people are reading the writing on the wall, and this is also goes back to an earlier topic of like, you know, like you wouldn't get out of bed for a 2x, and neither would I, right? And there's a lot of people, you know, so gung-ho about, you know, Bitcoin going to 100,000. That's not even a 2x, right? No, but they're jazzed about it. Yeah. And Richard just covered this yesterday in his stream again, and he's talked about this a lot, which is I think it's kind of sort of an example of the network effect. Everybody knows about Bitcoin. The richest man in the world, Elon Musk, is already in, right? My dad, who's 83 years old and has Alzheimer's, knows about Bitcoin. Okay. It's like, and he'll ask me how my Bitcoin's doing, right? Because it's like, he doesn't remember that I got out of Bitcoin, but God love him. If that guy knows about it and Elon Musk already bought, you've kind of like already saturated the market, right? As far as who's going to buy, you already got them, right? They're already on the hook. So either they're going to buy more and maybe some more people are going to kind of slowly follow in, but what's got potentially more upside? A product that not nearly as many people know about. And there's a ton of people out there that know nothing about Hex, or all they've heard was that it's a scam, right? So once they read through that bullshit narrative and understand the benefits of staking and the stability of it inherently, the truth engine, all of those other pieces, the likely out, I mean, because people are like, well, I already did a 10,000x, man. It's like, I'm too late. I missed it. You know, maybe Pulse is my ticket. Yes and no. I think Pulse is going to be phenomenal. I would be surprised if Pulse didn't do at least 1,000x in the next 12 to 18 months. Wow. I would be surprised.
Say that again, please. Say that.
I would be shocked if Pulse does not do 1,000x in the next 12 to 18 months. I'd be shocked. You know, mark your calendars. Call me an idiot later.
You heard it first on you heard it on the BallietBran channel.
Yeah, right. And I mean, that's only 1,000x. You know, I mean, Hex did that. Hex did 10 times that, right? So I mean, the possibilities of us doing the same thing is not crazy by any means on Pulse. But just because we've already done a 10,000x in Hex, right back to that point about how many people know about it relative to how many people know about Bitcoin. So is it beyond the possibility that Hex couldn't do another 10,000x? And a 10,000x and a 10,000x is what, a 1 million x, right? Is that right? Do I have too many zeros in there or not enough? And Bitcoin did a 6.9 million x.
Yeah.
So if we do another 10,000x from here, are we? I mean, what is that? I can't think right now. But I need a cup of coffee. But you know what I'm saying? And look, the light of God shone on me for the truth that I'm speaking right now. My lights just went up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm super jazzed about it. I mean, I think the math backs it all up. I think, you know, everything's there for people that care to take the time to learn.
I mean, how much would Hex be then? I mean, that's the beauty of it. It wouldn't seem unattainable, would it?
If it's 10,000x from here, what is that? If it's 20 cents right now, let's just say times 10,000. I can't. $2,000.
$2,000.
2,000. Yeah. Which, you know, if it's, you know, I mean, that's not crazy. I mean, would you bought Bitcoin at 2,000? You know, so it's like,
well, there are plenty of people buying Ethereum right now at $4,500, aren't they?
Right. And if people start to see the reality of the fact, and this is the thing that I think is like a tremendous upside. It's been touched on a little bit. I've talked to Kinetics behind the scenes on it, and then I think they've talked about it on stream. I might have as well. But if you look at like the mayor of Miami, Florida, and like what they're doing with like Oki Coin or whatever it is down there, think about municipalities. Think about just small municipalities, like local city government stuff. If they've got a discretionary fund and they're able to like, you know, invest in something short-term, long-term, whatever, those guys are going to look like fucking super geniuses. And tell me a politician that isn't looking for something to make them look like head and shoulders above the rest. Yeah. So as soon as people, and like, retirement funds, all these kinds of things, if they start to see, because I mean, it's happening with Bitcoin. It's happening with Bitcoin. It's in retirement funds right now. Sure. So if that's happening and people are getting more comfortable with crypto in general, and someone does their due diligence and says, hey, there's some risk here, but the upside on this is so tremendous, it's worth putting 0.01% of our portfolio in this long term. And then all of a sudden, the neighboring city hears about it, or the governor of the state hears about this little podunk town, and then boom. There's so many different opportunities where
that's how it goes exponential, isn't it? And are you thinking sort of 2 or 3 years out? Because I think one of the limiting factors at the moment is Hex is still a baby. It's less than 2 years old.
Right.
So the institutions, I think they're gonna shy from something that's less than 2 years old.
Sure. Sure. Well,
but when it's 4 or 5 years old and it's gone through loads of cycles, I think, and just gone up and up and up, I think they're going to not be able to resist it. Oh, right. I mean, like people aren't as scared of Bitcoin as they used to be, right? I mean, it was a Ponzi. It was all the things that Hex got called, right? Everybody thought it was garbage. And then now all of a sudden they're talking about it on all the major financial networks, and, it's undeniable, right? It's undeniable. So people are accepting it as a real thing that can't be stopped. So it's only a matter of time before they start to see that same potential in Hex, and how I see it as a better Bitcoin, So I don't know. I mean, I just think, I could go on and on. Brian could tell you, we talk on the phone about this shit, and it'll be longer than some of these streams. We'll just go on and on about how excited we are about it. And
you're right. I would agree that like the opportunity does lie in how many people have heard about it versus how many people haven't. And then, like Toby mentions, especially when you compare all of the metrics, like Bitcoin did at 6.9 million X from a penny, and that's with some of the complications that it's had, right? Hex didn't get hacked like the Bitcoin website, the Bitcoin.org website the other day.
Or the inflation bugs, right?
The inflation bugs. But even like the Bitcoin.org website went down and got replaced with like a scam type of thing, and all this stuff. And it's like, man, and it still did 6.9 million X, but this gem of a thing, which is Hex, is 100% uptime, kind of just behind the scenes. And I think Toby brings up a good point that the opportunity and the odds of more people hearing about it and the price going up exponentially higher is a lot more than it not doing that. Yeah, definitely, Bran. Well, especially when you got payouts per T-shares like 24.36, like the staker class. We got a part of that, but if you were to stake today, you wouldn't get that because you weren't staked yesterday before the rollover.
Yeah, it's funny. The buddy of mine that sent me the thing about what the stake, the Hex per T-share payout would be today, he had been holding on to a pretty sizable chunk liquid for a while, and just by happenstance, he decided today to stake it. And he was like, "You think I'll get that?" I'm like, "Man, I don't think so, but for your sake, I hope." But it's like, no. Tomorrow you'll get it. But it won't be this again for a while, probably. Is this a high?
Dude, I'm pretty sure, because like the last time it was the guy that did Wise, the nightly guy, and I'm pretty sure that was like 14 per the payout or something. But this is at least the highest that I've ever seen it. So I think this is definitely
nice.
Sheesh worthy.
Dude, yesterday, I don't know. I wasn't able to watch all of it, and I was listening to the majority of it, but I was blowing leaves. So it's like I had like my earbuds in, and then I had like, ear protection over top of that. And then even with that, it was like I didn't hear all of it as clearly as I'd like. And it's like I've got tons of trees and I'm in the Midwest. So it's like leaves for days. It's ridiculous, dude. 90 minutes. And I don't have a big yard. 90 minutes blowing leaves. And I've got like a freaking leaf blower that's like a jetpack. Like if I pointed that shit at the ground, I would be like fucking Iron Man. Like it would about lift you off the ground. And still it took me 90 fucking minutes. But I'm listening to Richard's stream. So I heard most of it, but it's like there were pieces I missed and I wanted to go back and I just haven't had a chance yet. But one of the things I really took like extra like satisfaction in is like, I can't stand that Peter Gurr guy. I just can't stand him. And like Richard normally just won't talk about Wise because, the MO is that you just kind of ghost the trolls and the garbage out there that's tried to copy it and like rip us off in one way or another. And that's part of why like that and Axion are not getting copies, right?
True.
they're not getting copies because they're assholes. And it's like they literally tried to steal from us. And like, there could have been other ways where they could have built something, compatible or comparable even in a more honest way. But it's like, because of the way they went about it, Richard's like, fuck them, Yeah. I'm the guy that's starting this thing, so I get to choose which ones get copies. And the ones that are obvious scams like these are not getting copies, right? And those guys are tap dancing as fast as they can to get yield for the idiots that put their money in those copycats. And it was just so nice to hear him just really go to town on what bullshit Wise was. And it was funny to me that as smart as those poker player guys were, they hadn't done the research to know like what Wise was. And it was just, but it was great. It was great. It's like, I want to go back and listen to that again, like how he responded to that. And just like his immediate reaction, just laughing like, oh God.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, yeah. So, and they had questions like, oh, but the liquidity pool has XYZ. Doesn't that mean that it's good? And it's like, just all these things that are like bad for price appreciation. And same thing, I don't like to talk about that stuff much either, but it's not like we pretend that they don't exist. We just try not to give the attention. But especially when they've already lost that bad, sometimes you have to rub it in their face once you've won
a little bit
and just let them know, like Richard said, you bet against the wrong team. Like it's always going to be, not always, but at least the first mover advantage in this case. Like good luck trying to keep up. You just won't be able to. Right.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to buy Coca-Cola or do you want to buy the cheap knockoff? You know what I mean? It's same deal. And it's like, and plus it's like, it's not necessarily, I mean, I get the idea of like not giving attention to things that you think are scams or definitely are scams, because invariably when you mention them, there's going to be, that 1 out of 50 people that's going to be dumb enough to be like, what did he say? And then they're going to go like click clack on it and like, oh, that looks like a great opportunity. And then they wreck themselves because they're, so I think it's a balance where it's like, obviously you don't want to just frickin' go bonkers with talking about bullshit all the time, because you're probably going to get net effect of more people wrecked than saved. But there is something to be said with just like, hey guys, be aware. You know what I mean? Like these things are garbage, and just don't save yourself from yourself. It's like, if anything, go invest in Bitcoin or something, or Ethereum or Chainlink or, like that's more, well understood. I mean, I'd even say Litecoin than that crap, but it's there's opportunities in other things. Don't go picking up pennies in front of freight trains, especially when it's pretty well documented out there, like what's absolute rug pull garbage.
Right. Well, yeah. People have these like false fallacies where they think like, oh, Hex went up 10,000x, so I'm just going to go for the thing that's cheaper that hasn't done its major run up yet. And then it doesn't have those same features that made Hex do its 10,000x in the first place. And then, now they've got like a sunken cost because they keep putting it in, and it's all this stuff that makes it.
It's like, hey, Crypto 7, when you're getting in, I'm assuming that you were trading when you first got into crypto.
Mining. I just started mining and worked out that there was more money just in buying, and I was just totally immersed in understanding crypto. I just thought it was fantastic. So I sold my mining gear and then just got myself a little portfolio of cryptos and dollar cost average down like you did. And
Smart.
I was sure of the bottom, but I'd run out of money by then. I dollar cost averaged too aggressively when Ethereum was like 800 and 700. And by the time it got down to $80, I knew that was the bottom, but I put a bit on cards and things. But it's gone very well. I can't complain. It was funny listening to you about the earpods, because I was doing the exact same thing today. I listened to those two poker players for twice. I thought it was so good. They were very bright. As you say, they not necessarily had done all the background, but they asked some great questions.
Yeah, from what I got of it, I can't wait to go back and listen to it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was really good. And I do the same thing. So I have to do a lot of mowing. I've got a big garden, and I have the earpods on really loud, but it's probably damaging my hearing. But so I can
I thought that too.
I can listen to things, but do the gardening at the same time. But it's cool.
I wondered about that, because it's like I had the ear protection for the external noise. I had to have the earpods all the way up to hear even with that. And I thought, am I saving my ears or am I making it worse?
You probably will have like bionic hearing in the future.
But I'm presuming from your accent, are you from the UK?
Yes.
Are you going to the London thing.
Yeah, I was saying that's right. It's silly, but because I'm underwater, and for reasons we expressed, I'm probably not going to spend 350 quid to go to a conference and go down to London. But if I was, I probably would. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to be in Hex for a long, long time. I don't see myself ever selling my Hex after this conversation. And there'll be plenty of other conferences, and it's all good.
I tell you what, Crypto 7, if you promise me that you will use it for a ticket to go.
Oh no!
In the private chat, give me a wallet to send to, and I'll send you, what is it, $500 US probably?
350, I think. I think it's 350. I can't accept that though.
Yeah, no. I'd be happy to, and then you could go in my place, and then if you get to meet Richard, just tell him that Toby One bought your ticket.
I would do. Wow.
I'd be glad to do it because, dude, I really wish I could go. But I'm
well, look, I've got an ETH address. In my comments on my last video. Have you and I think Brandman's going to very kindly put a link to I do a summary actually of that interview with Richard and the two poker players.
Oh, cool. Right on. Yeah, but I'll check that out. And once we're off stream,
that's so generous. I absolutely will.
You got to promise on stream that if I send it to you, you're going to use it to go buy.
Well, look, and everyone who's still listening, thanks for staying with us so long. Well, look, also what I'll commit to do to all the people who've watched this long is I will do a summary of the event, and I'll do a video summarizing the event.
That'd be great.
Trying to talk to as many people as possible, and most importantly, Richard. And I'll mention that Toby One sent me. Oh, that's amazing, buddy. Thank you.
I'd be happy to, because man, believe me, it's like I wish I could go. And then I think there's going to be something in New York as well. And Brandon and I have been talking about maybe doing that. But it's like, there's so many things in motion right now with my professional life that I don't know that I'm going to be able to get away for. I definitely can't go to London, and I would really love to. But even for the thing in New York, it's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. So I'm going to be, the guy on the couch watching it all go down. So like, if you're there live streaming something or like whatever, or even your synopsis would be fucking great, dude. That'd be awesome.
Definitely, mate. I promise I will. Cool. Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. I mean, I've spent $350 on much less upside opportunities. So it's like, I'm happy to do that to help you get over there and check it out. That'd be
amazing.
Super cool.
That's amazing. Thanks so much.
I'm stoked. Yeah, it's like I was actually talking to somebody the other day about just like kind of the way that I chose to kind of try to market Bitcoin, and actually, or not Bitcoin, but Hex. And I think I even talked about on the Big Payday stream was how I did Facebook ads, to just try to get more eyes on it, and realize Facebook's kind of garbage for getting, eyes on things. And you just have so much hate that comes at you because people are mad that they saw an ad. It's like, what? It's like, welcome to the 21st century, dipshit. It's like, that's kind of how things work. So I was getting all kinds of hate because the Hexaco music video popped up in their feed. I'm like, are you serious? You're going to really be mad at me for this? And it was just so not worth it. And I mean, I got like, I don't know, over 500,000 views and like tens of thousands of clicks, which I'm imagining that it was net positive, but just like on a soul level, it was just like crushing me. So I'm like, fuck Facebook. It's like, I'm not doing that route anymore. But then in addition to that, with my onboarding, I think it's over 300,000 Hex that I've given away. Wow. My cost basis was relatively low because I was in early, so it wasn't like that generous. I mean, if I still held it, it'd be a fair amount of money, but I gave people wallets, and like whatever the value was at that point, I'd give them about $100 worth of Hex.
Tremendous.
And then what became kind of, it just wasn't effective to do any longer is like, I'd give them $100, and then it would, by the time that they staked it, it was like, $60, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then it would cost me $20 or $30 to send it to them to begin with. So I'm out $130. And then, by the time they start their stake, it's half of that. So it was just like, what the fuck? So I kind of tapered off. And plus I'd kind of covered everyone that was a family member or a friend or employee. Like all of my employees that wanted to take the time to sit down with me and get a staker app set up. It's like, I went through that and did that with them, and they're elated, I mean,
that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
There's some of them that are, pushing 5 figures on that $100 I gave them. And it's, and then what's funny to me is like, of all of those people, and I don't regret it, but of all those people, maybe 15% actually put any of their own money in. Like most of them only have what I gave them for free. But
Yeah.
of the people that went ahead and started investing themselves, I think I'm pushing $2 million now that my onboards have put in of new fiat. So I'm like, hey man, it fucking worked. It's like it's helping get more adoption, more people in. So if all it cost me was that to get that many people on board, and then who knows how many people they've onboarded and exposed to the opportunities with this and Pulse. And what's really funny is, and I've said this elsewhere, but it doesn't, you probably haven't heard any of this, but one of the people is the financial advisor for my parents.
Nice.
And it's like, wait a minute. It's like, wait,
cool.
we're paying you for financial advice. It's like you're getting a percentage of their entire retirement account, but you're gonna invest. And he was like, everybody I talk to has like, this is the crypto, dude. You got to check it out. And he goes, I know, I always check them out because you never know which one might be legit. And he goes, they're all bullshit. And he goes, but I looked into this one. He goes, this is fucking remarkable. So he's a Hexican and he's sacrificed for Pulse. So it's
when's he gonna pay you?
Yeah, right.
Kick
it's like,
back a little kickback.
Where's my 0.75% annually?
I got a financial advisor I told about crypto a couple of years ago at least, and just recently started taking me out for lunch. Wants to know all about it now. Wants to know all about it. Not advice, obviously, but I'm happy to give him some. I'm happy to give him some pointers. Yeah, I've onboarded quite a lot of people.
That's awesome.
And that's nice. That's nice.
Oh man.
Toby, that's cool.
So I hope there's tickets still available. What is it? 7:31 gathering? Maybe I shouldn't give the website because it'll sell out.
I think it is 7:30.
They got a nice website.
They do have a nice website. Yeah, those guys are legit.
I know Richard mentioned it just yesterday, and there's a new crypto YouTuber who comes across very well. I think he's going as well. He's from England,
Cool.
So it'd be a great chance to meet him as well.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine through Telegram that's from the UK, and he's going. It's Chris, and I'll mispronounce his last name, but he's on Telegram. It's like NRAIPAI or something like that. Super smart.
Oh yeah, I've seen that guy. I've seen him. Yeah,
he's going to the meetup, so he'll be there for the event. So
Cool.
Yeah. But you'll have to, if you run into Chris, I'll tell him to keep an eye out for Crypto 7. Maybe you'll make a new local friend.
Absolutely, that would be lovely. I'm also Chris, by the way.
Oh, okay, right,
nice, dude.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. Well, cool, man. Well, I hope I haven't just worn you guys out because I drank some coffee right before you came on, and so hopefully it was of use to people.
It's nearly 1 a.m. here, but I'm buzzing. I've loved it.
Yeah.
I know, right? I'm all jazzed up now. It's like I'll annoy my fiance for the rest of the night now, just being too awake.
Yeah. We'll definitely wrap up here. What a great stream. We've had like a consistent viewership of like 166 people watching.
Oh, good.
I did put in that link to the website that you mentioned, Toby. The
cool.
Hex731gathering.com, so people can check it out. And then last thing I'll say is shout out to the staker class. Whoops. That's not the one I wanted to do. I meant to do that one. Shout out to the staker class that just got the huge payout. And then I guess if anyone has any last minute things that they want to say, I know I did put Toby's channel in the description, his Twitter channel, and then actually I need to put your YouTube because you do have a YouTube, and then same thing with Crypto 7, his Twitter and his YouTube channel too. Yeah,
I'll drop the link to my famous or infamous Hexaco music video. And by the way, it's like I actually license that, so I own a license for it. However, if anybody wants to use it for anything, you want to chop it up into TikToks. I just got busy with other things and didn't pursue it. But the idea was to put it out there as a ringtone on the Apple Store, to put it on Spotify because it's fully licensed to be able to do that. And it was a guy, I can't think of his name, he was on The Voice and America's Got Talent, and I think it's Ryan White, and amazing instrumentalist and musician and like multi-instrumentalist, musician and singer. And he did all that shit from scratch, which sounds crazy because it sounds so much like the original Beach Boys song. And the first copy he sent to me of it had a ton of auto-tune on it. I'm like, oh fuck, it's like, what did I pay for? This is like, what's he covering up? This is horrible. So he was like, well, he goes, and I mean, he's trying to sing the Beach Boys. I mean, like any vocalist knows that's some high quality vocals, right? So he was just didn't feel like he had done them justice. And he was like, well, let me just send it to you clean, like with no auto-tune. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, you fucking nailed it. Like I've played it for people and they thought it was the Beach Boys. I'm like,
me too.
perfect. I'm like, thank God. I'm like, this is great. And like, and people like have gotten nervous about playing it, thinking they're going to get a strike. And I actually played it or uploaded it. And then somebody reported it, whatever, like that shit happens. And I got it. And they were trying to give me a strike for it. And I sent them a copy of my YouTube. I sent them a copy of my thing and they lifted it and it's approved to play and monetize and everything if I ever wanted to. TikTok, however, hasn't gotten back to me. So TikTok pulled the music off, but then like kind of sort of left it. So like if you see where I've shared it on TikTok, it sounds like dog shit. Like somehow the song's still there, but they've just kind of morphed it in some weird way where it just sounds really bad. And they took it down because of potential copyright. And I can't get anybody at TikTok to even look at it, you know, so it's been aggravating. But yeah, I'll give you a link to that if you want to share that for people that might not be aware.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that in there because yeah, that makes sense. Just link the video, not the channel, because then that way it goes to the channel. That's the one that's where you want the attention to be is the video. So well, cool guys. Yeah, we'll end it here. Thanks again, Crypto7, for coming on.
Well, thank you. Thanks for hosting, Bran.
Yeah,
Crypto7. Thanks so much for hosting and Toby, thanks so much for your generosity. That's absolutely fantastic.
Hey, no problem, man. It was fun talking to you. And it's like actually Bran and I, we're going to talk about all the drama in the community and like just, you know, try to bring people back together. And it seems like that's organically happening already. And quite frankly, I'm so glad that we talked about this stuff instead, because this is way more what I'd rather put energy into. And it was an absolute joy talking to you, Chris. Great to meet you. And you had some great questions. And I'm glad I was able to help clear some things up for you.
You definitely
and feel free to share the spreadsheet too. It's like I got the link in the private chat and the public chat. So if anybody wants to use the Google spreadsheet to play around with, and if you got questions, you know, you guys can hit me in Telegram.
Cheers.
I will put that in the description as well. The Telegram link, or not Telegram, but the spreadsheet for the thing, and then the video as well. So anyways, we're going to do the outro. See everyone next time.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to comment. Motherfucking jackpot. We still jackpot, bitch!
Thank you, Richard, for creating and founding the most amazing and disruptive financial technology cryptocurrency ever. Thank you, sir. And nice streams, Mr.